You ever hear scratching in the ceiling at 2 a.m. or noises coming from within your walls? Let me just tell you this. It's not the house settling and it's not your pipes. It is rodents. And I'll tell you this for nothing. Once they're there, they're not going anywhere. And you hear one, there'll be 100. Do yourself a favour and jump onto pestrol.com.au and get yourself a Pestrol rodent-free Max. Now, the people next door, when they moved in, Baz and his lovely wife, they said, we've got a couple of possums in the roof. I said, aha, have I got the product for you? And so we got them the Pestrol possum deterrent. Possums gone in 3 days. I said, Baz, how's the possums? He said, they've gone. Doesn't hurt them. It just drove them away to live somewhere else. Pestrol. Use my code at the checkout, BONA. Don't forget it, and you'll get yourself free delivery. Head to pestrol.com.au. Pestrol. Problem solved.
In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide Podcast with Luke Bonar. And he's not
All right, here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
And look at this. We're rolling. Keep the rolling.
Road high.
Rawhide
Oh.
from the TV show. Covered brilliantly in the Blues Brothers film. Remember that when they're in the cage playing at a country and western bar?
I don't think I've ever watched the Blues
Are
Brothers.
you serious?
Yeah. I think my dad had a Blues Brothers theme party for his 50th or something. And I remember dressing up in a suit.
Yep. Black suit, white
Yeah.
shirt, black tie, Jim Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. And they were on a mission from God. It started off as a Saturday Night Live skit and they took it further. The all-star cast, Aretha Franklin, Cab Calloway, I mean, it just goes on and on. Some of the best music. Just download the Blues Brothers soundtrack and play it in the car.
Okay.
And you will be hooked because it's got the brass section. Sweet Home Chicago that goes for about 8 minutes is just fantastic. And Minnie the Moocher featuring Cab Calloway.
Yeah.
Freedom
Okay.
with Aretha Franklin. All those great songs.
Yeah.
All those great songs.
Yeah, great songs.
I saw a live version of the Blues Brothers review at the Metro many years ago. It was supposed to star Russell Crowe and Simon Westerway, Simon Westerway is a great actor. I had no idea he was such a good harp player and a musician. Russell Crowe got a sore throat. So George Washing Machine played his part. And I interviewed both of them. And I said, is that your real name? He said, no, my real name is George Kelvinator. He's a very funny bloke. But anyway, the Blues Brothers, Kelsey, rolling. Big thanks to Pestrol for sponsoring episode 109.
No, sorry, I did it
not.
again.
It's 110.
I changed it on
Kelsey,
that one.
you got one job to do.
I forget to change that one.
You got one job to do. It's episode 110. Even I knew that. Pestrol. Remember, if you want to get rid of rats and mice and any sort of pests, even possums, Pestrol has the answer. Australian company. And a reminder that our merch store is open, and it would appear that some folks have already availed themselves to the merch, and I haven't got anything. I haven't got a cup. I haven't got a T-shirt.
It's on its way, okay? We had to get it out to the people first.
So some people have sent us photos of them wearing the Bonafide merch.
Yeah.
Good on you, boys.
I know, looking very handsome. And I've been told that they're good quality, so that's always nice to hear.
So there's a fair bit to talk about today. We'll have a look at some of the stories making news. But we've got James Ward, our motoring expert, to talk about National Thank You Wave Day, which went off with a bang, but it's going to get bigger. It's going to develop momentum.
Oh, yeah. You've got a whole year to plan for it now, Luke.
Yeah, so I'm delegating that to you. That's your job. Apparently, the Prime Minister hasn't just pissed off real estate investors, the small business community, but he's also annoyed car enthusiasts, and we'll find out why.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't hear about this except in your chat with James Ward, and I was like, oh, that would piss them off. That makes sense.
Okay, why exactly? That's coming up. We're also going to talk to our man on the inside, David Littleproud. We'll talk about the budget, how it's affecting small business now, how a number of Labor backbenchers are revolting and, well, they're not revolting.
Yeah.
But they're not.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They're not happy with the response that the budget's created with their constituency.
Everyone else in Parliament would be loving the revolt.
And my prediction is there'll be some aspects of this budget reversed before the next election. So was it an extravagant and unnecessary kite-flying exercise? If the government does backflip on some of its budget policies, they're going to be seen as cowards, that they got it wrong, that they're bending to public opinion. And then if they don't, and Labor Party members of Parliament end up losing their seats, they're in a hiding to nothing either way.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually talking to one of my friends about the budget. Well, she actually came to me and asked, can we talk about the budget? And I was like, okay, sure. Because this is Brittany, right? She's a friend that,
one of the twins.
Yeah, she's not super up with politics, but she keeps, her finger on the pulse just to make
She's
sure
an
what's
accountant.
happening. Yeah, well, she's a homeowner as well. So, but she doesn't really get into politics that much. She was saying that whether or not the policies are good, this doesn't look good. This is really bad, like PR for Anthony Albanese. And as somebody who doesn't have time to really get into the weeds of the budget, all of the hullabaloo around it, isn't good. And at least she believes that it's got to cause some real damage. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from other friends as well.
Well, just remember, the whole idea around the budget was to encourage intergenerational wealth. And so they're looking at your age group.
Yes.
And my age group, the boomers, you're no use to us anymore. That has not been well received.
They did grandfather it though. So I think that was to keep your generation happy. The work that you've done to build your wealth in your homes isn't really going to be affected.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about that with David Littleproud a little bit later on, because there's news out this morning from the New South Wales Business Commission. They've done a research poll, a bit over 1,000 people, which is about your normal sample.
Yeah.
And they're saying that never in the history of New South Wales, and even worse than when COVID was gripping us all, has there been less confidence in starting a business in Australia. Anyway, I'll discuss that with David. You know what else I'm going to do with David Littleproud?
What?
We're going to have a look at exactly what's on the menu at the Parliament House dining room.
Ooh, the plat du jour.
Oh, wait till you, and he said you don't go there for dinner.
No.
Because you go somewhere else.
What would it be? Wouldn't
lunch.
it just be like sandwiches?
Ah.
What do they get fed? That's
I'm
actually a good
keeping my
question.
powder dry.
Yeah, what do they get fed?
Well, you're gonna find out. Do you remember Bob Catter hit
Yes.
the roof when he couldn't pay cash for his fish lunch?
Yeah.
I was at the parliamentary dining room years ago when I was on 2CC in Canberra, and I was there as a guest of a politician. Shall I tell you who it was? No, maybe you tell me. I'll tell you. I haven't got a problem. And I was at a table with two politicians. One was from the ACT government and one was a federal member of the Labor Party who weren't in government. Morrison was at this point. Bill Shorten was leader of the opposition. The amount of alcohol subsidised. I mean, bottles of wine you would normally pay $250 for in any restaurant, $70.
Yeah.
There was a lot of alcohol consumed, and then the bells rang because there was a division.
Yeah.
And one of the politicians said to me, "What am I voting on again?" I'm serious.
I'm not surprised.
What am I voting on again? These people are running the country. They're voting on important legislation and they're pissed.
I know. And isn't it crazy that if a truckie drives after a beer, they lose their job. They lose their license.
Exactly. That was the point. That was the point I made at the time. These people are making massive decisions on the future of Australia. They're not all pissed, but
of course.
But the politician I was with at that lunch was.
Yeah, don't name them.
And
Don't name them. Don't.
And said, "What am I voting on again?"
It's not good. Now, just on David Littleproud, obviously we have a lot of listeners who necessarily aren't living in regional areas or maybe don't support the Nationals. So I've got a question for you guys. What politicians do you want to hear from? because we'll chase them down. Whether or not they reply to us is another question.
Hmm.
You know, we're looking to get, different people on. So
Well, we
make
had
sure
David
you let us know.
Shoebridge,
Yeah.
the Green senator. I enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah.
Did
If
you enjoy it?
I actually very much enjoyed it.
See?
I mean, obviously you guys don't agree on everything.
Good.
But he's talking about things that you would never, I don't think you'd hear David Littleproud talk about.
Exactly.
So I think it's interesting.
Exactly. So if there's someone that you want us to talk to, tell us and email us and tell us what questions you'd like me to
Yeah.
ask. I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Leave a voice message
Yeah.
and say, can you ask such and such this question? We've had Pauline Hanson on before.
Look, Mark did an excellent job when he came into the party. But he never did the work, just didn't want to be under a party. Mark only used One Nation to get himself elected to Parliament, do what he wanted to do. Our former Senator for New South Wales. I didn't endorse him for the second term because he was lazy. That was the reason. He never did anything. And I thought,
I'll happily get it back.
If she'll come back.
Why wouldn't she?
Oh, I don't know. She's a busy woman these days.
I want to talk to Jackie Lambie from Tasmania.
Oh, yeah.
She's a character.
Yeah.
We'll try and get Jacinta Price back on. It doesn't matter from what side of the political fence you're on. We think you all deserve a voice.
Yeah.
I'm the voice. Try
and understand it. Yeah. Who else we got on, Luke? Charles.
And my good mate Charles Tarby, who is the owner, chairman and CEO of Century 21, Australasia, South Pacific, UAE and India.
Busiest man in Australia, I would say.
And we're going to we'll talk about the budget. Will this budget help the Kelseys and the Britneys of this world get into a house? And we're going to talk about a few other things that might just surprise you. And he's got a book coming out.
Ooh.
We'll talk about that. And you will see, for those watching us on YouTube, you'll see his little dog.
You can also watch us on Spotify as well, Luke.
Is that got visuals?
Yeah.
I thought it was just all audio. I reckon Charles's dog, BB, which is short for Fabibi, 8 years old, I reckon it's an AI dog. It's too cute.
Really?
It's an AI dog.
Oh, cute.
Without a doubt. All that and a whole lot more. Stay with us for episode 110 of the Bonafide Podcast.
Don't forget Truckie Tuesday.
And Truckie Tuesday with Rod Hannafy.
Something to think about, something to laugh about. We're talking news.
At the recording of today's podcast, the enhanced games are kicking off in America, Las Vegas. Why not? If you're going to have a drug-enhanced games, have them in Las Vegas, I say.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that there's about 200 journalists covering this, 25 countries, a $70 million venue built in just 4 weeks, swimming pool, running track and weightlifting. Now, jokingly, I have said for ages, I want to see a drug-enhanced Olympics because I want to see weightlifters lift 3 ton and explode.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see a pole vaulter go so high they come down with burst eardrums and a nosebleed. I want to see, Kelsey, a long jumper completely go over the sand and break their ankles on the concrete on the other side.
I'm sure they've kind of made up for the enhancement of the athlete.
There's massive prize money for this. What
How much?
concerns the $1 million, the former Australian swimmer James Magnuson has kind of been the spokesperson. He signed on as the first athlete willing to take performance-enhancing drugs. They say it's taken under strict medical supervision.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to have legs. I don't know if people will watch it. I'm sure they will.
Yes, they will. Are you kidding me? Of course they will.
I want to see.
I want to watch it.
In the Fair Income Department,
Yeah.
I want to see if world records are actually broken.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
This is the opportunity, Kelsey,
I know.
for Ben Johnson to come out of retirement.
Who's that?
Oh, God, folks, you see what I'm... Ben Johnson, Kelsey, was the Canadian sprinter who won the 100-metre final in a world record time of 9.79 seconds at the 88 Seoul Olympics. Huge man, bald head, black.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just the next day that he was banned forever because his urine sample came back positive.
Right.
This is an opportunity for Ben Johnson to make a comeback.
Right. Interesting.
Did you know about Ben Johnson?
No.
But there have been other famous American.
Oh,
not just American. What about the Russians?
I know the
what
whole
about
Russian
Chinese
team
swimmers?
got banned.
What about the Chinese swimmers?
yeah.
All the Eastern Bloc countries were doing it.
What do you think about it, Luke? What's your general opinion
I
on it?
worry that it's going to encourage athletes to take these performance-enhancing drugs and do themselves damage.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a quick story, Kelsey.
Okay.
About 20 years ago, there was a survey taken of 100 of the US college top athletes. And they were asked a number of questions, but this was the question that interested me. The question was, if you could take a performance-enhancing drug that absolutely guaranteed you a gold medal at an Olympic Games, but you absolutely knew you were going to die within 10 years because of that drug, would you still take it? And over 90% said yes.
Should we run that poll on the Spotify?
Okay, go on. Are you interested in the enhanced games? Do you think it's safe? Do you think it's responsible? Or do you think go for it? Watch weightlifters lift 2 ton and explode. Watch their stomachs just...
Yeah, we'll do a poll.
Watch their guts come out their assholes.
Oh, God.
Because they're... Do you want to watch that?
We'll make a poll on Spotify asking something like that. Probably just, are you going to watch the games?
Yeah, all right. Kelsey, I've got something else that I want to bring up. And maybe this is a man cave topic. We can do both.
Mm-hmm.
Ages ago, your mum said, I want you to use this Flybuys card when you shop at Coles. I said, I'll get more points if I use it at Liquorland, but that's another story. Incidentally, you can use your Flybuys at Coles Liquorland, but you can't buy tobacco with it. You don't get points for tobacco, but you can for alcohol. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
And so she said, I want you
Yeah, I was going to ask, what?
I want you to use your Flybuys card whenever you make a purchase. I said, why?
Yeah.
She said, because we get things. I said,
Yeah.
what? Well, flies.
Is this news to you?
Wait, let me finish the story.
Okay, sorry.
And I got a funny feeling it was either you or your sister that said, oh, get Luke to use the Flybuys. It's a good thing. And now your sister is saying, oh, no, don't do it because you're giving up all your information. All your data is eventually sold on.
They've got it anyway.
She said, so anyway, I've been doing the Flybuys because your mother terrifies me. And I said to the girl said, oh, do you want to use your Flybuys? I said, yeah. Incidentally, I said, what do I get for my Flybuys? I said, do I get a one-way flight to Wagga on a single-engine Cessna? What do I actually get? And she said, come with me. And she took me around the other side, and there was this cookware. And she said, see on your receipt, that shows how many points you've got.
Yeah.
And have a look, you can buy this. And she said, but you've got to do it now because that deal ends at midnight tonight.
Oh,
you
didn't save the points?
I had 100 points. So
Oh, my God.
for 80, I got
A fry pan.
a KitchenAid fry pan. No, wait, there's more. That was 80. For 20, I got slotted spoons.
Oh, my God.
That took me to my 100. And I brought it home to show your mum. She said, good boy.
But also, you guys literally have 3 drawers full of old pots and pans.
Shush now. Because
so
guess
many
what?
pots and pans.
Shush. Maybe she hasn't told you, but she's giving these to you.
Oh.
That's yours now.
Good work. Good work.
See,
You
I'm
do
a
good
good
job.
boy.
You do a good job.
No, but in the fair income department, how much information, data am I sharing, and how much in a monetary value, how much have I spent at Coles to get 100 points? How much? What is? Can you quickly Google? You're quicker than me. Can you Google me the retail price for a 28 centimetre KitchenAid fry pan?
I'm seeing them come up here for about $140. But also, here's a KitchenAid Classic Forged open fry pan for $45.
Okay, how much is the KitchenAid spoon? That was 20 points. What does that retail for?
Usually they retail between $18 and $20 for each.
Have I got value for money? Here's my question for my listeners.
But you might as well use it though. You might as well just use it. Everyone's got your data anyway, I think.
Am I compromising my privacy? Is a KitchenAid spoon and slotted fork thing and a KitchenAid 28 centimetre fry pan worth the privacy I've surrendered?
They've already got
Because your
it.
sister, Storm, says you're mad.
With your internet safety, everyone has got your details. I know this because I unlink your Gmail account from spam accounts. So you are already well and truly compromised,
But
unfortunately.
now Coles knows what I buy when.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Flybys tell them that?
Is it hurting you?
My liver. God, this guy spends more on beer than he does on fruit and veggies.
Yeah.
The Department of Health would be very interested in all of that. Always drink responsibly. But anyway, I was told, instructed, and you see that it's got your mum's name on it. So she said, use this. Have I done the right thing?
Maybe this is a question for Trevor Long, because I could be totally wrong here, and I mean this in a good way. You're not super up to date with like the latest privacy and policy things. I feel like you're kind of a lost case at this point. But for other people, I don't know, maybe I have no idea if the data that they're getting is actually going to be harmful.
I want my listeners, and there's a Woolies one too, it's orange, but the barcode is scraped off and so it's blank.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I don't shop at Woolies, I shop at Coles. And the only reason for that is I know where everything is.
Yeah. Old habits die hard.
I am an old habit. That's what very old nuns wear. Old habits.
Yeah.
So you didn't get that. So anyway.
Now, Luke, would you pay $500 for a night off from the kids?
This is a really interesting story out today. Now, I don't know whether this is Daily Telegraph clickbait or if it's fair income, but there was a survey. And by the way, Canberrans pay the most for babysitters. Now, how much would you pay to have the kids sat so that you can go out for dinner? Australian parents spend $183.6 million annually on a night off. That's what we spend on babysitters across the country, according to the survey. Canberrans pay the most. There's obviously a lot of money in Canberra. $86.60 per session is the average in Canberra.
How much is this? How many hours is this session?
Well, you need to find out.
Because it's probably just like minimum wage.
How many Australians would love to earn $86.60 for 3 or 4 hours?
Oh, heaps. Don't get me wrong, heaps. It's hard to tell, right, if they're not telling us how many hours are in a session.
Let me go through some others. Tasmanians paid the least, $43.70. The average cost of a babysitter nationally is $68 per session. There was one parent who said they'd spent $500 for a babysitter.
Well, if you got the money and you know a good babysitter.
But see, it doesn't tell you for how long.
I know, that's the thing, right? Because $68, if you're going on a night out, you're going to be away for minimum 4 hours, I would say, right? Like you're not going to just go out for a quick dinner and bother with a babysitter. Probably just take the kids with you. But if you're going to get a babysitter, you would maybe go out for like 4 hours, right? Which means they're getting paid, what, $22 an hour, which is like pretty in line with minimum wage.
What's a waiter get? What's a waitress get? What's a barmaid?
Yeah, about $22 an hour.
Yeah, but if looking after someone else's shitty, snotty kids.
Well, I mean, if it's bedtime.
Yeah, for Durgan.
But you're still responsible for something
a
goes
human,
wrong.
I know.
Yeah.
And there was talk a few years ago about regulating the babysitting industry because it's all cash in hand, but also should anyone who is responsible for a child under the age of 16 have to do a St. John ambulance course?
I think most kids now do get babysitting. Like they do get that.
Do they?
Yeah. I remember when I was younger, and Annika, my next door neighbour, and I, we tried to do babysitting. And all the parents we spoke to said only if you've got a St. John ambulance.
Yeah, a first aid course.
Yeah, we only went up the streets around here. But
my daughter during COVID, she was nannying the kids next door, but she's done all that because of her job.
Yeah. She knows what she's doing. Yeah. Now, Luke, let's just run through some quick stories here.
Very quickly.
So Teals are in talks to form a new political party. I think that's very reflective of One Nation stir in the pot, which is good to see things moving. Another spear fisherman has been killed by a shark. That happened in far north Queensland. Very sad. That's the second shark attack in a week. And also, I found this interesting, Luke. Scientists have found that large mammals are thriving in the exclusion zone of Chernobyl.
Yeah, but they've got 3 eyes.
You know what's interesting?
They've got 3 eyes and 6 feet.
Yeah.
And 2 toes.
Yeah. What's interesting is the frogs, the closer they are to Chernobyl, the blacker they get. Some scientists have found pitch black frogs. But the animals that are really thriving are animals like the Eurasian lynx and moose and I'm not going to say this, some type of horse. But they're loving it. So maybe we can turn Chernobyl into like a wildlife sanctuary.
Przewalski horses, I think.
Ah, there you go.
I think that's what it is. Would you eat a fish that was caught in the lake near Chernobyl?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Mail got a message from Chiomi about watch
Right.
me walk
Okay, that's
the
enough.
streets and talk.
That's enough. That's
Doobie,
enough.
doobie, doobie.
Stop.
Oh, come with us and gallop.
So they said, so glad someone else remembers the songs. And with a name like mine, do you think there was ever a chance of
Miss Helena.
Miss Helena having my name called? By the way, it's pronounced she owe me, like she owes me money.
Yeah.
Mum anglicised it from Japanese. So she owe me. That's actually a really pretty
It's a
name.
really pretty name.
Really pretty name.
But Miss Helena is racist.
Yeah, she's never going to say
She was racist.
out of the running there. Now, Luke, I did post a clip of your little Menti B, romper room Menti B.
Your mother, can I just quickly? I'm downstairs looking for content.
Yeah.
Your mother's upstairs in her chair with her phone and she's laughing out loud. I said, what are you laughing at? And it was that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
It was a
Lots of people thought
it
that-
brought back memories for her too.
Lots of people thought Nature B was back as a sponsor and that you've taken too many. But this is what, and I also asked people like what brings them nostalgia from their childhood. Steve said, and you're going to have to explain to me what these things are because this is like just, I've got no
Yeah, go
idea
on.
what any of this is. Basil brush?
Okay, that was a British television show about a fox.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, does he look really creepy?
No.
Oh, okay. It's not the one I'm thinking of. Basil brush, Flipper and Skippy were great.
Okay, let me tell you about both. Quickly, Flipper came first. Skippy was based on Flipper. Flipper was a dolphin in a national park. There was a father and two sons.
Yeah.
He's widowed, just like Matt Hammond, played by Ed Devereaux in Skippy. It's a national park, but instead of a kangaroo, there was a dolphin.
Oh,
And they had a little gadget that they
That's
put in the
fun.
water and they turned the handle, woo, 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 and it would call Flipper. They call him Flipper, Flipper, faster than lightning. Then the whole idea around Skippy was based exactly on Flipper, but set in the national park and featured a
Right.
kangaroo.
Steve also said, as was Littlest Hobo and Lassie, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, Littlest Hobo was a German Shepherd. Lassie was a collie, a Scotch tricolour collie. And another TV show featuring a German Shepherd or an Alsatian was Rin Tin Tin.
Nice. Okay. Stephen said, and I have no idea what this means, romper, stomper, bomper, boo, tell me.
Tell me do. And that's what she
What
used to
does that
say
mean?
before she looked through the magic mirror.
Oh.
Yeah.
Melinda said, bouncing balls. Oh, how innocent I was in primary school, never distorting the words. And the wooden horse.
I come with us and gallop. It was a
Okay.
horse on a stick. This is great stuff, Kelsey.
Yeah.
This is gold.
Gold. Now, Luke, Cameron sent us an email a while ago and he was actually wishing you a happy birthday, but it did get lost in the inbox. Sorry about that.
Bit old now.
He did ask the question though, is the A9X Holden Tirana that won Bathurst in 1979 really your favourite car, Luke? If it is, you have fantastic taste because that is among the greatest sounding V8 engines ever made.
Indeed it was. And it was the Holden dealer team A9X driven to victory, that great victory at Mount Panorama, 1979. Peter Brock's co-driver was Jim Richards. And it was a 308 Holden V8, but tricked up to the max.
Yeah.
And only a few of them were sold. Some were 4-door. The ones I like are the 3-door hatch. That's the one Brocky won in. And they are over $1 million now.
Yeah.
Very few of them exist.
Yeah. Now, Luke, when I read this email, I felt like the biggest dum-dum ever. Darren, he said, hi, Luke and the gang. So cute the millennial thought her generation thought up the word doobie. Kelsey, it was from the 60s with the hippie movement and Woodstock. Luke, I have to pull you up on Star Wars, sorry. The first one you're referring to is Star Wars New Hope, which was the fourth book. George Lucas started with his book after acquiring the movie rights, as he thought technology wasn't advanced enough to do the first 3 books, which is why he invested in Industrial Light and Magic in 1978 to create pioneering effects for Star Wars in 1977. So, yes, I did feel like the biggest dum-dum, and I was like, of course, Woodstock and the hippie movement was fully a thing.
George Lucas not only created Star Wars, he wrote it. He didn't acquire it. He wrote it. And 1977 was the original, and it was just called Star Wars back then. Okay, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi with those cute little koala-y things with spears. They're the only 3 I'm interested in. I've seen the others. Not interested in the rest. I'm not interested in prequels, sequels on sequels. I just like those 3. But that's just me.
Maybe he wrote it as like a screenplay and then turned it into a book. And
The Empire Strikes Back was also written by a bloke called Lee Brackett and another bloke, what was his name? Lawrence Kasdan, but all based on the George Lucas stories.
There you go. TJ's Dog Sport sent us a message on Facebook. Regarding the budget and young people having a greater chance of buying a house, it's all smoke and mirrors and it's not going to make it easier at all. This type of tax reform has been tried and tested already and was reversed due to a sharp increase in rents and less property availabilities. The government knows this and were advised but still went ahead with it. It's just a feeble attempt to win younger voters. Luke, what do you think about that?
The very idea that you can negative gear a new home, so long as it's a newly built home, I get the idea that it's going to encourage new homes to be built because they're the ones investors will want to buy because they can negatively gear them. The problem with that is the maths, and I'm going to discuss that with Charles Tarby. So the Australian federal government, along with different states, have said, okay, we are committed to building 1.2 million homes in the next 5 years by 2029. There's no hope in hell. We don't have the builders. They don't have the apprentices. The cost of building materials. I don't know how they are going to reach that target. And the other thing is that new homes, let's look at Sydney just for example. It does change, but Melbourne's the same. New homes are built on new housing developments. Now, Sydney's run out of land, and so has Melbourne. So these new developments are way out of the cities, which means a long commute. Now, if you are going to encourage people to move way out of the CBD and create an hour and a half, 2 hour commute.
You need infrastructure.
Yeah. So you need transport, rail, schools, hospitals, shopping centres, pharmacists. You need all that infrastructure.
Yeah. No one wants to move.
Before you suddenly release 3,000 homes.
Yeah.
So that has to be taken into account too. And our building industry is on its knees because no one can – there's a shortage of labour.
Yeah.
So –
you know what else there's a shortage of? People that have the borrowing capacity to buy these houses as well. Inflation, but also just like wage growth as well has really stagnated. So people actually can't borrow enough money to buy these houses.
As Chris Menz, the Premier of New South Wales, the Labor golden boy up until a few days ago, has correctly said, the tax reform you've really got to address is bracket creep. Because where's the incentive to get a second job or even a third and try and get ahead? Because it puts you up in a new tax bracket, but you can't buy. Your money's not worth anymore because of inflation.
And then you can't borrow. And then you can't borrow. Yeah. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? And just quickly, Rosalind said on Spotify, after listening to the podcast, I watched Remarkably Bright Creatures. Loved it. Recommend it to anyone. I was going to put this on the other day.
Sally Field movie,
Yeah, but I couldn't. I was so scared that the octopus was going to die, like it always happens in animal movies. And so I was like, I can't watch it. It's going to break my heart.
Everything dies.
Oh, I know, but I can't bring myself to watch it.
Have you seen the movie Old Yeller?
No.
Oh, I'll watch it. It'll bring joy to your heart.
All right. Well, there's our Tuesday recommendations for you.
And you know, Bambi. What happened to?
I don't want to. Let's not talk about it, Luke.
Watch Bambi and Old Yeller. It'll just bring a smile to your face, Kelsey. Trust me.
No, I can't.
By the way, spoiler alert: Titanic, the boat sinks. What's coming up?
James Ward
and motoring.
Use pretending not see that blinker and there's trouble. There's trouble. Guess what? I don't think you are my enemy anymore. My enemy and the creator of roundabouts, Frank Blackmore. Frank got up on one more.
James Ward is our motoring expert here on Bonafide. He is the content director with drive.com.au, and often you see him behind the wheel test driving things or just basically dribbling on about all things motoring. And he joins us again because there's some really interesting stuff that I wanted to discuss with James. And some of it is listener feedback questions, and he's ready to go with that. But James, just before we start, May 8, National Thank You Wave Day. It went off well. It was well received everywhere. And we started small, but it's going to get bigger. I think it's got legs. Or is that the wrong thing to say?
It's got a I think no. Let's stick with it. I think it does have legs. Look, we ran a story. We had talked about it on 3AW. You had it on. You had 2GB. I think a lot of people. This is the right thing. We've got so much doom and gloom. As we said, this is a really positive way of dealing with things on the road. So look, let's make it bigger next year. But I think we'll just warm people up to it.
The response from everybody that received Kelsey's press release was, "Oh, what a great idea!"
Yeah, it is. It is a great idea.
Yeah. Well, it was my idea.
That's right. It is an excellent idea. So
I'm giving myself a rap because no one else will. It was my idea, and I had in fact, it might have been you and me on Triple M. You know.
Yeah, it was back on Triple M. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember discussing it with my then producer, Jess, and I said, there should be a national thank you wave day. And I think you and I then picked up on it and, oh, God, you were busy.
It's pioneers like you who are willing to just, take a stand and move it forward.
Well, all
the Rosa
I knew,
Parks of waving.
Yes. You're giving up my seat on the bus, as it were. But all I was thinking was, when I let somebody in to merge or come out of a tricky car space and they give me a thank you wave, it just made me feel great. And that was all it's all.
It just warms your heart, right? Like it's blanket forgiveness and you just feel like it makes everybody feel better. It's a win all round.
I was talking to Phil Curry from the NRMA in the lead up to National Thank You Wave Day. He said, it's a great idea. And he'll put it to his people at the NRMA, and maybe next year they will get right behind it and do it. Help us with the national campaign. But look, we started it. Please give somebody a thank you. And if you have buggered up, duck your head a little bit and say, I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry.
A little bit of contrition, and we all feel better about it.
And you can still get stickers from the merch store, and we're going to give them away in association with Rod Hannafy from the Trucking Association. So go to our merch store and get yourself a Don't Be a Wanker, Be a Thanker sticker, and let's keep the momentum.
I need to slap one of those on the back of the Peugeot, I think, just to really rule the streets here of Melbourne.
A Peugeot. Gee, there's a brand that you predicted wouldn't be in Australia for very long.
Well, look, I do worry about Peugeot. I love them. I've had many. I still love them. I drive one, but I do worry about them.
Look, we've covered cars that won't be around in 5 years, but I'm happy to revisit it because maybe your mind has changed. I don't know. But I do want to talk about cars, and this is often brought up. People, and maybe it's just nostalgia, but people are saying, we made bloody great cars in Australia.
Yes, we
did. From Ford to obviously Holden. We made Valiants, Chryslers, Toyota were here, Mitsubishi were here, but I think it's the nostalgia about Ford and Holden that constantly brings this question up. Can Australia manufacture cars again? Now, just a bit of history. Australian manufacturing really peaked in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And that's when production hit record highs, around 500,000 vehicles annually. At its peak, employed over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Now, maybe tariffs, maybe there should have been more protection. There was plenty of protection. Ford ended local manufacturing here in Australia October 2016. Now, Holden, General Motors and Toyota ceased their Australian production October 2017.
Yep.
And it was a really sad day. And down in the man cave, I've got the front page from the Daily Telegraph, and there's a picture of the old Holden that Ben Chifley launched.
Yep.
And the headline is "Rust in Peace." And Kelsey will post that because I've kept the front page of the telly because it was a monumental day. So, James, in the fair income department, can Australia support an Australian car manufacturing plant again? Can it work, or is it just not possible?
So, look, there are multiple parts here because could we, and if we go back to it, if we say big car factory has raw materials going in one end and cars popping out the other, can we do that? No, right? So you look at it, right? The development of said factory is billions, like multiple billions to not only develop, to build, to have in place. The labor costs are significantly high. The energy costs are significantly high. So in order for this to be done, it would have to be significantly supported by the government, which is taxpayers. So why? Why would we? Because you've got other markets that are building cars at scale. And it doesn't matter what you're building, manufacturing is more cost effective at scale. So if we were to build cars here, you've got to design the car, you've got to develop the car. But then even if we said, oh, no, we would just build an existing car, but we build it. Why? Why would we do that when you can import them from overseas? Because you would pay more for that car in Australia than you would from an overseas one. And we've got plenty of people who are now excited by the fact that you can buy a very cost-effective car. Yes, most of them come out of China now, but they're getting better and better. And you know what? They're cheap. But here's the other thing that I'm actually going to talk about this on the TV on the weekend, because it's kind of insulting for Albo to have said this, because we have an automotive manufacturing industry in Australia now, happening right now. Nissan have a factory in Dandenong where they cast components that are exported around the world to support 17 individual Nissan models, including the new Patrol. I've got a list here. You got Premcar, who are also in Melbourne. They do the post-development upgrade cars. So they do the Nissan Warrior and the new Mitsubishi Raider, among others. You've got Walkinshaw, right? The whole Walkinshaw group, who are at the old HSV factory, which in turn was the old Nissan factory, which in turn was the old Volkswagen factory in Clayton. They are doing all of the right-hand drive re-engineering for the Rams, the Chevy Silverados, and the Toyota Tundras. You've got Ford, who through a company called RMA are doing the right-hand drive re-engineering on the F-150s. Then you've got Ford, who do global development, design, testing. They designed and developed the Ranger and Everest that are global market cars. Then you've got Mack up in Queensland. They make Mack and Volvo TKD trucks in Queensland. So TKD is total knockdown. So they come in parts from fabrication and manufacturing overseas, and we build them like a giant Lego set here. So you've got, again, Ocker in WA build your mining vehicles. You've got local suspension and ride and handling tuning done in Australia for not only Australian market cars, but others in the world, for GWM and Kia. That's a lot, right? That is a lot of automotive manufacturing and development that happens in Australia right now. Yes, we're not building cars, but we are supporting them, and we do have an automotive industry. And so for Albo to say, oh, it's been shit that we're not building cars anymore, mate, you've got a pretty solid industry here. Maybe shout out, because it's Australian Made Week, right? Like, this is why they were talking about it. The bits from the Nissan factory all get cast with a little kangaroo on them because they're the Australian made logo. Support that. Shout that from the rooftops. Let everybody know that we've got some pretty talented and special people here doing a lot for automotive, not just in Australia, but around the world.
Okay, a couple of things. Is it worth the taxpayers subsidising an industry that really hasn't got much room for growth because of our limited population? The argument for that, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, I'm just putting it to you. The argument for it is, yes, it would be subsidised by the Australian taxpayer, but if it employs people, that means more Australians have jobs which are paying tax, putting that money back into the economy.
I don't know, look, and so that circle of industry and government life kind of makes sense. But here's the question I'll ask you. What are they building?
Well,
what are they building?
We're going to have to build hybrids and electric cars.
We buy
now.
hybrid RAV4s. We buy diesel Rangers. You look at our top 10 cars, it's Ranger, Hilux, D-Max, Triton. You've got Prado, you've got Everest, you've got RAV. Are we building utes because we buy them? Are we building 4x4 wagons because we buy them? Are we building hybrid SUVs because we buy them? The idea and the romantic idea here is let's build Commodores again, right? To put a name to it. A V8, comfortable, big mile tourer that is just the Australian car. The problem of doing that, they were a fantastic car. That final VF Series 2 was a brilliant car. But I had so many conversations with people who would be like, it's so shameful that Holden's packing up. And I'd say, what have you got in the driveway? They go, oh, well, I've got a Ranger and a CX-5. And it's like, there's your problem, right? We weren't buying the cars, but also a Commodore, a V8, and even the six-cylinder big sedan in a market that was buying SUVs, right? We are buying SUVs.
Well, let's build them.
Hybrids.
Let's build Holden SUVs then, for Christ's sake.
All right. So so there we go. Who's developing that car, right? Because back when the VE was done. That was, if you remember the news story there, Holden invested over $1 billion back then into the VE. What would it cost to develop a car for Australia in Australia right now? It is billions to do that. And at the scale that we sell cars, because the only way it would really work is if everyone in Australia bought one, right? Like if we sell 1 million new cars, if you said, okay, to make this viable, we're going to churn out 100,000 of these things. So 10% of the Australian market needs to buy the Australian-built car, which would mean the best way around that, you would have to mandate fleet buying. So every taxi would have to be one. Every government department would have to drive them.
I see.
And so this vehicle would have to be the ultimate multi-role tool, in which case it'd be based on something that was already built overseas, in which case, why don't we just import the one that we build overseas because it's built cheaper than what it would cost here?
Yeah, I will say this. We build Kenworth trucks here in Australia, and they're
Kennys
very,
and Max
very
and
good.
Volvos, yeah.
Yeah, and Jayco caravans.
And Jayco caravans, right? Yes. Actually, the caravan industry in Australia is massive.
Yeah.
So,
the silverhead retired boomers.
What do you call this? You know, I'm not retired, but I've definitely got the silver hair.
Anyway, look, it's worth talking about. Is it just a ridiculous nostalgia, or we've got the argument is we have the plants sitting empty now. We have
they've all been demolished.
Well, okay, we'll build a new plant along with some nuclear
power station as well,
and some more refineries.
A train to Melbourne Airport and a train fast between Melbourne and Sydney.
We'll build some very fast trains, more refineries, a couple of nuclear power plants, better roads, better hospitals, better schools. Sorry.
Prime Minister Luke Bonar, right? This is it. You are the champion of the nation that we need. This is it. I'd vote.
I got to say this. You mentioned Tom Walkinshaw, who I knew, and those Walkinshaw Jags that John Goss drove.
Yes.
They got a 1-3 finish at Bathurst, 1985 from memory. Where am I going?
The Super Cats, weren't they? The XJSs,
They were beautiful. But the ugliest car in the history of Australian car manufacturing was the VLSS Group A SV Walkinshaw Commodore.
No, don't. The plastic pig.
Kelsey, flash a photo of the 1986 HSV VLSS Group A Commodore with all the plastic bits on it. It was the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
No, I love them. They are iconic. Actually, if you want to know the ugliest one, when Brock left HDT, Holden Dealer Team, he had his own thing. The Brock Director was a VL Calais with like these hideous the Brock Director.
Did he have the pop-up lights?
No, it would have, because the Calais had the half flips, But the VL Group A SS, the VL Walkinshaw, I love them. And a few years ago for Australia Day, I went down to HSV when they were still building cars, and they had Tom's car there, his personal one. And we got it out and had a new VF GTS W1, and I got to drop a skid in the walkie, which was quite a career high for me. But mate, I love them. They are a very special car. So here we go. Here is my posit that what we should do in Australia, if you look globally, where big money is being spent on resto mods. There was one released in the last month or so. It was a Ferrari F355 that was done by someone. It was basically taking a 355 and modernizing it. And this has been happening. And the most big example here is the Singer Porsches, where they take an old 911 and they modernize it and they bespoke the interior. And these things are squillion-dollar cars for high net worths to buy. Why don't we do, and in the US, you have continuation models. So they do rebuild Cobras and Ford GTs or GT40s in a continuation. So they're not the original build number, but they're built to original spec. Let's do that with HSVs. And so if you've got a VN executive and you're like, you know what, I've always wanted a VN Group A SS. They know, you do a continuation build. You take these cars, you restore them, you modernize them, you bring them in. That kind of a sub-industry for the heartland of Commodores. And then also, if you take things like EHs, EJs, HRs, there's obviously people restoring those and street machines and things like that. But even the idea of taking really nice ones and, hear me out, electrifying them. So you've got people who are wanting to sort of have it. Then you can have a beautiful looking HR wagon, nice and smooth and quiet with an electric driveline. Beautiful.
Okay, stop him now, folks. He's gone mad. He is now officially, you heard it here on the Bonafide podcast, James Ward will not be at Drive for very much
I've
longer.
stepped over the line, have I?
He's gone way over the line. I've got another question for you. Fact or fiction?
Yep.
That Holden was killed off by General Motors head office in Detroit. And one of the biggest conspiracy theories, and you can set the record straight, General Motors in Detroit, the parent company of Holden in Australia, got very upset at Australians developing the 308 and the 253 V8s, the 4.2 and the 5 litre. And they were unbelievable engines. And the story is that General Motors Detroit got very nervous because it was the 351 Chev in their best-selling their top-selling sports car, the Corvette.
Yep.
And the 308 was lighter, developed more horsepower in less space, and was sturdier, much sturdier than the 350 Chev.
Yep.
Now, is it true that General Motors head office in America shut down and tried to bury the 253, that's the 4.2 Holden V8, and eventually the 5 litre 308?
Look, no. So the engines went on for a bit of time, and look, it was obviously American cars and American
great
engines.
motors. They were great motors.
Well, the Aussie, but the American ones generally made, like, American horsepower is just wild, right? Like, you would see cars of the 1970s.
Completely stifled from catalytic converters. And
that's right. Like, they couldn't make power to save themselves. And so the Australian development of the engines was obviously where, look, I'm sure there may have been a bit of corporate jealousy, but it wasn't closed because of that. It wasn't shut down. And again, if you think about it, we had our engine plant in Elizabeth, but we moved to LS Motors because, again, this comes back to it. Manufacturing is a global game now. So having centralized, market unique components and vehicles and things like that is just not cost effective. So back in the day when it wasn't such a global industry, yes, Australia built engines for Australian market, and yes, they were much, much better than what the Americans did. And I'm sure there were probably some ruffled feathers in Detroit about that the colonials are building these much better motors. But over the years, it was not shut down because of that. It was because those engines went on for a bit of time, but the whole thing was, I guess, centralized to a point where LS Motors would be the ones that we would build in. But I think we had a hand in the 6. We were doing exports of some to other markets as well. So Australian engine development was still pretty big in terms of that GM global footprint. And same with Ford. Like, the Australian developed engines were, like the Barra 6-cylinder, made more power than the American-built V8, I think, in the EL Falcons. Like, it was that the Barra, the first one, or the BA? Testing my memory now.
You're the expert.
Yeah, I know. It's early in the morning, mate. What am I supposed to do? I haven't had a coffee.
He's about to go to Italy, which we'll talk about.
I'm about to go to Italy. That's right.
But all I'm saying is, the fans of Smoking the Bandit will look at that Pontiac Trans Am, the Firebird, and the 1979 one with that Concorde nose with the square headlights.
6.75 litre or something?
Okay, well, you had the 400 cubic inch 6.6. Yeah. And the black with the golden bird on the front with the shaker coming up through the bonnet.
The screaming chicken.
Yeah, okay. It only produced 220 horsepower, but Christ, it sounded good. And
what is
good.
American doing? Like, actually, there's your point, right? A little bit of thermodynamics here. When energy is transferred, so the engine is making, is making power, but a lot of that energy is dissipated inefficiently. And America knows how to be inefficient with power dissipation. But I tell you what, they turn it into some pretty solid sound. Bit of heat, bit of sound, but no power.
The sound is unreal. And you look at the 350, I mentioned the 350 cubic 5.7 litre V8. It only produced 255 horsepower. But
Those
Jesus,
Americans.
It sounded good, and the car would rock, and it looked great. So here we are. Australia's
this is why
developed.
They steal the world's oil, right? Because they don't know how to make efficient engines.
Yeah. Well, but all Americans loved big cars and big engines, but they didn't produce horsepower. They were so inefficient. And so here's Australia developing a 308, a 5 litre V8, and a 253, a 4.2 litre V8 for Holden. Unbelievable results on the racetrack. And the story is that General Motors shut it all down because it was a threat. Their argument was we had to shut down Australian manufacturing because you just didn't have the numbers in sales. But we did back then. And you look at that. I keep raving on about the A9X Tirana. Then you look at the XU1 Tirana, the 6. Unbelievable engines. Thank you to Larry Perkins and those great engineers. And they shut it down. Well, that's the story.
Look, do you know what? The better way to look at all of this is in legacy and history, right? Like, we can't build cars today. We're buying electric and hybrids from China and whatnot. They're appliances. And in many ways, look, they're good cars. They're safe. They do all the right things. But the passionate part of Australia's motoring culture, that time has passed, but that makes it so much more valuable to look back. And when you see one of these cars on Australia Day, I'd walk to the shops and someone had parked an A9X out in front of the local Woolies here, and it's just turning heads left, right and centre, like such a cool car. So I think the nostalgia and the history of what we did and what we can remember is significantly more important, because I can tell you now, if we were to build a car in Australia, it would have to be a very vanilla hybrid SUV or electric. Yeah. Like, it's just, that's where the market is. So this idea, the romantic, we're building another Australian car for Australians. The car we're building for today's Australians is not the car we used to build. We're not having a V8. We're not having a cool sports sedan. We're not having something that can go to the racetrack. We are going to build a RAV4 competitor. And that's not going to stir the hearts and minds of barbecues around the country. And I think we're better off remembering what we did and what is happening right now. Let's remember we have an automotive industry already. Let's look at that. Let's celebrate that. Let's remember what we had, and let's get the bloody politicians to stay in their lane and fix the roads. Maybe build that fast train.
Okay, one more question, and I know that Drive.com and the story is
.au, mate. We're Australian. .au. Yeah.
Okay, one more piece of Australian motoring, I guess, nostalgia, but this is a story that has stretched over the years many, many times, was Kerry Packer's XJS Jag. And apparently he got it to give John Laws the shits, and John Laws was a massive car fan. And so he gets this XJS, and Kevin Bartlett was at the racetrack with him, instructing in the passenger seat. And they drove this XJS, the most beautiful thing with the flared guards and the rear spoiler. And
I've got a story about it up on this screen here, and because it sold at auction back in 2021 for $217,000.
Okay, well, you can tell me. Okay, so anyway, Packer says to Kevin Bartlett, how do we make this thing go? Then the rumor has it that Tom Walkinshaw, here we are again, built a twin turbo, 895 kilowatt. With folks, we're talking 1,200 horsepower. And this car was an absolute beast. And then I heard it caught on fire. But tell us the story about Kerry Packer's XJS Jag.
Yeah, so it started off as a regular XJS, and apparently in the late 70s, he took it to Oran Park Raceway. So this was a V12 automatic. Mm-hmm. Took it to Oran Park, and KB was there. And basically, they did a few laps, and apparently KB was wanting to get out if KP didn't start listening to his instructions on the track. And then, to your point, Harry apparently asked and said, okay, well, how do we make it go? And I love that. This V12 Jag was not fast enough. It was a horsepower war, as you said, between Kerry Packer and John Laws. So the car was fitted with a pair of IHI turbochargers. Remember, this is a V12, right? So you've got a twin turbo V12 now. It produced a 895 kilowatts. Now, in the old money of horsepowers, let's have a look. 895 kilowatt horsepower, that is 1,200 horsepower out of this thing, which is insane. Automatic transmission was swapped out for a 5-speed, had a lot of mods with the flared guards and all sorts of bits.
It looked great. Jeez,
it looked unreal. It went into market. The person who sold it back in 2021 owned it for 25 years. So it sort of went to a collector. But it's this, like, big black XJS with gold Simmons on it. It's got the gold stripe. Like it's perfect. 1,200 horsepower for big old KP to nail around Sydney.
I couldn't believe it when I'd heard. I knew you did an article on it. It's great.
Yeah,
you should go back and look at Drive because you talk about how you built that Mad Max Pursuit Special. That was a great story.
Yes.
But when I heard 895 kilowatts, I thought, Jesus, I've got 386, which gives me 520 horsepower. And when I heard 895, I thought, what? And then it's 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah, no.
And then I heard that it caught on fire or something, or there was a fire in the works. What was
I'm
the
sure
story
it
with-
probably did at some point because A, it's a Jag, and B, it's like tuned to the buggery. So look, it did sell. So if it caught on fire, it was repaired, and yeah. What an amazing car. And I love that. Kerry Packer's got a lot of stories. Like Nissan launched the R32 GTR in Australia when they did that limited run of 100. He showed up at Eastern Creek and said, all right, give me a lap. Did one lap and said, all right, I'll have two, one for me and one for James. Recently, a friend of mine who runs a Porsche sales place in Melbourne had ex-Kerry Packer 993 911 Turbo. It was beautifully looked after, and apparently, James used to tootle that one around Sydney. So it's kind of nice to have some of those. Everyone thinks of Kerry Packer and the cricket and Channel 9 and all that sort of stuff, and the telling that parliamentary inquiry that every Australian should do whatever they could to minimise their tax because the government doesn't spend that money very well. But he had a lot of cool cars, and so there's always an interesting KP story in there somewhere.
And so did Lawsy. And the Lawsy estate auction is coming up very soon. Furniture, artworks, and I think cars as well. So I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll get Adam McDonald.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. I've got two Kerry Packer stories that have been told to me by someone who apparently was there, and I don't want to put any mayo on this, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the person who told me. I'll tell you off air. Okay. So it was a mate of mine who was very good friends with Nick Farr-Jones, right? And
when the Wallabies were good.
Yeah. And it's a person who went to uni with Nick, and they were friends, and this friend of mine is also a golfer. So they're at Royal Sydney. And these are two stories that were told to me, and I won't tell you who told me just yet, but this is how the story goes. First one is they're out playing golf, and there's four of them, and one of the people playing in the foursome was the president of the club. This could be all bullshit, but I'm going to tell you.
Now, look, there's always truth behind bullshit, I think is the thing.
So anyway, they're on the fairway and they're waiting for this group up ahead to bloody move out of the road and get out of the way. And there's this bloke who's in a sand bunker, stroke after stroke after miss after miss after miss, and Packer says, "Who the is that?" And he said, "Oh, that's Dr. Such and Such. How long's he been a member?" 15, 20 years, I think. He said, "What's his membership worth?" He said, 40 grand. Gets out his checkbook and says, "Fuck him off." That was told.
Good.
And then another golf story at the same place. So they're playing cards up in the clubhouse.
As you do.
Packer loves his cards, and there would have been some decent folding on the table. Nowhere near Caesar's Palace when he tipped every croupier 10K after winning 26 mil or something like that. But anyway, and somehow two kids in Scouts uniforms or in uniforms get in there, and they're selling raffle tickets for a clubhouse. And Packer's got a good hand, and it's interrupted his game. And he said, "What do you want? Oh, we're trying to raise money for a new clubhouse." He said, "What's the clubhouse worth?" And they said, 60 grand. Now, piss off.
Get out.
Check. Now, those two stories were told to me by someone who was allegedly there. I don't know, but they're a bloody good yarn.
Look, do you know what? There's always a bit of truth in rumour, I think. And it's
Bit of mayo, maybe.
That's it. Embellishment. That's the Australian way.
Anyway, I heard these stories. I'll tell you when we stop recording who told me, because it came from a good source. But I may have, it may have, as my daughter would say, I've put extra mayo on the sandwich over the years.
That's right. We all like a bit of extra mayo.
We do indeed. Why are you off to Italy? Where are you going?
Yeah,
why?
so I've got the passport. I've got everything ready. I'm about to head off to the airport. I'm going to the Ferrari Luce reveal, which is the first ever electric Ferrari. And I interviewed the Ferrari CEO back when the Grand Prix was here in Melbourne, and he's been he's quite excited about it in that it has 12 electric motors, so one on each wheel for power, steering and suspension. The interior has been revealed, and that was designed by Sir Johnny Ive of iPhone fame, and it is a sort of a retro look back at classic Ferraris. There's knobs and dials and things like that, so it's not just screens and modern tech. So I'm very, very interested to see what this looks like. There's a lot of people kind of going, I don't know, Ferrari, do we really need an electric Ferrari? But we saw this week that Mercedes-Benz took the wraps off the new AMG GT four-door. So this is an AMG-specific model, but it is now, it previously was a twin-turbo V8 paired with a plug-in hybrid system. Now it's fully electric, and it is apparently uses what's called axial flux motors, which are far lighter, more efficient, more powerful.
Flux capacitor motors.
Flux capacitors. This is it. It is apparently ludicrously fast all the time. It has 2,000 Newton meters torque for response. So that is 2 kilonewtons of response out of this thing. It is insane. However, doesn't look that good. It looks a bit wacky D, I'm afraid, but it looks technically.
Have you got a photo? Have you got a photo that we can post?
I'll send through a photo and
send Kelsey a photo so that we can put it on this. On this
technically, it is amazing, right? And what they have done and what they have been able to do. It's Formula One technology in this car, staggering performance and capability. So well done. It's got fake V8 noise and rumble in the seats, and it does gear shifts like the Hyundai Ioniqs that they have, but this is a step up. So it sounds like an AMG GTR, but it is fully electric, and the looks are polarizing is what I'll say. It looks like, all right, when you see this image,
divisive.
Remember the bad guy from Toy Story, the Zurg, the Darth Vader kind of style thing. He had a light up kind of mouth that went across. It looks like that, right? It's just, I don't know. It's not for me. Plus the hero color that they've launched it in is like fluorescent tennis ball yellow. And you're like, I don't know, guys. Silver would have been my choice. But yeah, look. I'm very keen to see what the Ferrari looks like. Very keen to hear what sort of technology and performance it has. I imagine it will be quite impressive. But yeah, we'll see what that's like. But I will have a couple of Aperols and some pizza and a tiramisu and all that sort of stuff. I'm only there for 2 days. It'll be like eat a pizza, stand in front of the Ferrari, say some things, we'll turn around and go home.
Our hearts are all collectively pumping custard. At the terrible conditions you work under at drive.com. Obviously, budget's way too high.
It's a 17. So here we go. I have to go Melbourne, Perth, Rome, right? And so Melbourne, Perth's 3 hours?
Oh.
Perth to Rome is
going business.
17 hours.
You're going business, aren't you? Yeah, you see.
Look, I'll be there in my pajamas with my little socks on.
Oh, shut up! You are backtracking now. You are backtracking.
Mate, I'm going to a Ferrari launch. They're not going to put me down the back of the plane, right? So
stop it, James. You're done. You're absolutely done. Hey, listen, I just found a story in the Australian Financial Review. What year is this? 2018. A distinctive-looking 30-year-old Holden Commodore has reached a new price record at auction. A 1988 VL Commodore Walkinshaw Group A SS sold at Burns & Co. on Sunday in Moama in rural New South Wales, $340,000. I think they're more than that now.
Love them.
Ugliest car
them.
ever.
We agree to disagree here. If I had just stupid money where I didn't care, I would definitely have a VL Walkinshaw in the garage. I just love them.
Goodbye. I'm going to give you a thank you wave. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you wave.
Arrivederci, my good mate.
Arrivederci.
Thank you so much for that. And the future of Australian car manufacturing, possible, but I'm sorry for Ford and Holden
Let's celebrate
fans.
Celebrate the people who are already here, already doing it. You've got amazing people. Nissan, Walkinshaw, Ford, all
Kenworth,
the others.
Jayco.
Yeah.
James Ward, we love you, mate. Drive.com.au. You'll see him on the telly this weekend, and we'll see him when he gets back from his junket.
I'll be tanned,
nothing less.
Relaxed. Prego.
with bolognese dribbling down his chin. See you, brother.
Laughter, they brighten my day. Got the bluesy rhythm, but it's swinging my way. Oh, I got the look on a blues, but they're the kind.
Time for a look at what's going on in the country and around the world with our man on the inside, David Littleproud. David, welcome back to your regular spot on Bonafide. You're not sick of us yet?
No, mate. Well, you're not sick of me, so
No.
I've got plenty of time these days. So happy to help in any way, mate.
Well, I like your insider point of view on a number of topics. And look, I'm kind of sick about talking about the budget, but it's not going away. And the reason it's not going away is because there is so much confusion out there amongst the punters and the taxpayers and the earners. And I kind of likened this last week to John Huston trying to explain the birthday cake on Willacy in 93. And it is really, really confusing. Now, there is a new poll out today by Roy Morgan, and the New South Wales Small Business Commission is saying that a massive majority of businesses are concerned about the cost of inputs and compliance burdens, that there's confusion, and that confidence in business investment is at an all-time low, lowest since COVID. Now, Tanya Plibersek, the Social Security Minister, was on Sunrise earlier this morning, 6:45, and she was asked, I thought, a pretty easy question. She was asked by Natalie Barr, if you are the owner of a small business and you've owned it for 10 years, you're over 50 and you want to sell it, are you now going to be taxed more on the sale of that business than you were before? And let's have a listen. Let's have a listen. She couldn't answer it.
Yep.
She struggled to answer the question, and she even admits there that it is confusing. Well, if a member of the government is finding it confusing, and she says it's our fault, she says it's confusing, and so much of these new tax changes in the budget don't affect a lot of people, you don't need to worry about these things. Let your accountant or your lawyer work it out. If she's confused, the electorate's confused, surely, David.
Yeah, this is a cluster. And in politics, the old phrase is if you're explaining, you're failing. And the reality is they can't explain it. And that's the problem they've got. Now, my understanding of the capital gains tax is everything's grandfathered. I thought that was pretty obvious. But obviously now all this does is Tanya Plibersek adds more confusion. That it was anything for was grandfathered. It was only everything new. But if Tanya Plibersek can't tell us that and can't reaffirm that, then that brings uncertainty. That takes away the confidence. Our country was built by our forefathers on those that had the courage of their own sweat and their own wallet to go out, to have a go. And they're the ones that employed people to go out and to create businesses and create wealth. Well, now, if you start a business today, what happens is that you're up for capital gains tax. Anthony Albanese can take half of that, so that you build a business over a lifetime, and then at the end of it, he's there waiting for you to take it when you decide to give up and to go and live in your twilight years after a year giving to the years of giving to the country. That's not what Australia was built on. That's not a tax system that incentivises Australians to have a go. The best thing we can do is get out of people's lives, put the environment infrastructure around the people who are prepared to have a go, and get out of their way so that they can pay fair tax, but they don't need to pay exorbitant tax. And then you need to also look at, and I think this is what Angus Taylor definitely got right, is to start looking at tax bracket creep.
Yeah, well, that's what Chris Minns is saying. Chris Minns, who is Labor's golden boy in New South Wales, he's filthy that they haven't addressed bracket creep.
Well, that's the other side of it. I mean, on capital gains tax, it's taking away from businesses, and on the other side, the bracket creep just sucks the life out of everybody who wants to go and do a bit extra. I mean, I've spoken to you before about my young fella. You know, he's just about to finish an apprenticeship, but he's got a couple of balers and a tractor, and he just said it's hardly worth doing because I'm just pushed right up into tax brackets where I'm giving most of my pay and my earnings from baling hay to Albanese, and And that's not how we should create a next generation to say, if you're prepared to have a go. And you got Chris Minns saying, you got to look at the fundamentals of how you fix this nation. First, you fix it on energy. Energy is everything in the economy. Energy is the economy. And then you got to have a tax system that incentivizes people to spend their own money, not your money, not taxpayers' money, but their own money, to go and have a go and to take the risk, to have the courage to go and employ people and to create a business.
There isn't one collective leader of the some people found them very funny, the memes, the small business memes with pictures of AI-generated pictures of Anthony Albanese taking over somebody's business, saying how he's now got 47%. Now, but one of the contributors to the meme social media barrage has said, yeah, look, we did lie, we did exaggerate, but we wanted attention. Did they lie?
Well, look, I think everything on social media you take with a grain of salt, mate. I've never taken it as the pure truth. But the reality is Albanese has lied and has lied to the Australian people. He told us 50 times he wouldn't touch negative gearing. He wouldn't touch capital gains tax before the last election. I mean, he didn't have the courage just over 12 months ago. In fact, the election was nearly to the day. He could have said, yeah, I'm going to do this. This is what we've always believed in. And to not do it and then say, oh, well, look, we've changed our minds because we've suddenly found that young people can't find homes. Well, I didn't know that was only just a problem in the last 12 months. What he's doing is he's spending political capital now. He's spending a lot of it, but what he's got is 2 budgets ahead, and he's going to tax a lot of people. But he's going to come back in the next 2 and he's going to give lollies out to everybody that he thinks will potentially vote for him in the demographic that he's looking for, and he'll have giveaways left, right and centre. Okay, now, and you know this better than me, and I've been around for a while, if a lot of Labor politicians, and particularly a disgruntled backbench, start getting pounded on their electoral doors by constituents who are filthy with this and they may well lose their seat, do you think he will backflip and rescind some of these tax changes? And if he does, and I think he probably will, if he has a disgruntled party on his hands, and remember, leaderships are all decided by polls, if he does backflip and Chalmers backflips, are they going to be seen as weak? Are they on a hiding to nothing both ways? Well, I think you'll find that he's got a backbench that are already at him because this is as popular as the pox, this budget.
Have many backbenchers spoken to you?
Not on Labor side, no. No, they won't talk to. I haven't spoken to them about it, but they're obviously worried. And the reality is members of Parliament are like you; they still have mortgages to pay. And if they lose their jobs in 2 years' time, they have no source of being able to pay that mortgage. So they're very, very attuned to where the polls are, but also what their constituents are telling them on the ground. Now, there's already talk that Albanese is going to relent on some of the CGT changes around startups, and he's talking primarily around tech industry. But why is the tech industry getting a carve out rather than a young couple that wants to start a building business
or a coffee shop,
or a plumbing business, or a coffee shop, or a hairdresser, a young apprentice finished their apprenticeship and then decides I'm going to start my own salon. And why are they separate? Why are they?
Where's the incentive? Where's
some young tech hub some tech geek that wants to go and do that? I mean, this is where it's always been about class warfare with Albanese. And while there's talk that he's going to relent on some of this, tinkering at the edges, I think he's going to have to realise that he's gone too far. And I don't think he's going to. I think if he was smart, the easiest thing for him to do now to exit stage left is to simply say he'll just keep those capital gains tax changes to housing, and that's it.
Okay.
And if he did that, I think he could probably save some of it. There'll still be plenty of people pretty upset with the world, but he still loses skin. He's going to lose. He's losing political capital either way, and he's still going to lose it whatever he does from here on. But it's whatever is the least worst outcome for him politically.
Okay, I want you to explain something to me and my listeners, and obviously this is coming from David Littleproud's point of view, but there's news today that the Teal independents are now in advanced talks to create a new political party, and it may be announced within weeks. Now, Allegra Spender and Zali Steggall are leading this push up. We've got two teals in our electorate, Sophie Scampson and of course, Zali Steggall. David, can you explain to us who are the teals? What do they represent? What's their manifesto? Who are the light blue T-shirt brigade? Who are they?
Yeah, and all this is just reaffirming what we've always known. They have been a political party that's been backed by big billionaires from Sydney and Melbourne.
What's their agenda?
But effectively what they, in broad terms, is they say that they're economically conservative and socially progressive. I suppose is probably the best way. They believe in an all renewables approach. So I think that's their mantra, but the reality is it doesn't match what actual practical reality of what real lived Australians. And many of these people, the teal members have done very well for themselves, and I congratulate them for that, but they don't have the cost of living pressures that most Australians do every day in being able to turn the lights on and turn the stove on at night. And this is where, it sounds very cute and fluffy, but effectively their big mantra is about they believe in total renewable energy is the only way that our economy can run. And they are, in many sense, open to conservative economic principles. Ultimately, that doesn't marry up when you don't have an energy grid that can support an economy. That in short terms is pretty well what the teal movement stands for.
So who's behind them?
Well, they've always been run by Simon Holmes à Court. He's been.
And what's his agenda?
Well, he's obviously very supportive of the renewable energy. In fact, I think even on his own admission, he has investments in the renewable energy sector. So, this is politics is all about self-interest, and unfortunately, this is where many of the backers that back these, and some are very ideological. I've got to say, they're very wealthy people, and so they can afford to have ideological views around saving the planet because they're not struggling to put dinner on the table every night like most mums and dads are, and so they can have this holistic view of how society should run.
Do you think that Simon Holmes Holmes, does he see himself kind of as a Don Chip who founded the Democrats, I think 1977, in a kind of a keep the bastards honest capacity? Is that who they see themselves as, a new breed of the Democrats?
I think they probably did. I think Holmes à Court probably did. I don't discount that Holmes à Court honestly does believe ideologically in that all this renewables is the way to go, and this is how he can save the planet and save Australia. I think he's probably wired that way, and we're all wired differently. Many people would sit there and go, "God, this bloke from Western Queensland's a bit of a dope." So I don't begrudge him for that, but I do think he was a member of the Liberal Party, from what I understand.
Don Chip was,
yeah, as was Don Chip. And I think what Holmes à Court has obviously had an ideological view where he wanted to see an acceleration of climate change and climate policy.
It always pops into my head when I think of the Democrats. I took Nikki to see a show at the State Theatre, and I can't remember what it was. It could have been what was it? The Dusty Springfield story, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, and we'd had a few little drinky poos beforehand, and she's had a couple at interval. And as we're going back after interval, she looks over and she grabs my arm. She says, "Oh, look, it's Natasha Spot Destroyer." and I just can't forget it. This Natasha Spot Destroyer. I still bring it up. Who, by the way, I got on very well with on air. But
yeah, she was quite a nice lady. She's still around. I see her from time to time. She actually is quite a nice lady.
She really is, but I can't get that out of my head. Natasha Spot Destroyer.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, this has got nothing to do with us here in Australia, but I just want to know how you feel about it. What you and your family and your friends think about what's going on with the royal family at the moment, because it's a car crash. You know how we love watching this car crash, even if it is happening on the other side of the world. But what is going on with the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? Because the news today is that detectives are now investigating him quite seriously. Some more allegations of sexual misconduct. There was one woman that says that she was spirited into his place at Windsor without going through security. Her name wasn't on the guest list, and she was taken there thanks to Epstein for sexual favours. These are the latest accusations coming through from the BBC I read this morning. and his misconduct in office when he was appointed a trade envoy to the UK, hundreds of thousands of dollars misspent, taxpayer money. What do you make of all of this? Because there's allegations that the Queen bailed him out, 12 million quid to make Gouffre allegations go away, and Charles has kicked him out of one home but is still putting him up in another royal-owned home. There's accusations that the Crown is still kind of protecting him. What do you talk about this with your friends and your family? What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think most are sort of over it now. I think they've made their mind up about the former prince and who he is and what he thought he was entitled to. I think
great name for a book.
Yeah. And I think really there's some sympathy towards the King Charles, but I think what they would want to see, particularly, I would sense that if there are more allegations and founded and proven, then if the Crown continues, as you've just said, around continuing to support him, then I think the support for the Crown will start to be questioned about, well, why are we supporting somebody? It doesn't matter whether he's royal or not. If he's done something as egregious as that doesn't excuse anybody in this planet.
Do you think
doesn't matter who you think you are?
Do you think though that if the public, the UK public, I don't know if many Australians, you see, I spent 64 years of my life looking at photos of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and so this is all kind of new to all of us. Do you think if it's seen that Charles, the King, has protected him and continues to protect him even though he's taken his titles away, is it time for Charles to step down, maybe say, look, my health's got the better of me, and let William and Catherine kind of start a new slate?
Yeah, and I suspect and I don't underestimate that the palace would be making those assessments and about how they handle it, how they handle the situation. They're attuned to public perception, and it is important. And they
are now.
They are involved very much now, and this is the thing.
I think they're all sweating now.
Yeah, pardon the pun, but that is the reality that they've got to face into, and it may be depending on how Charles. I think Charles has tried to take a harder line on this in as much as he can, but I think that if there particularly are convictions, then I think you start to change the shape and the nature of exactly the treatment of what's happened. I mean, you've still got to work on the same presumption of innocence. Everyone, because our legal system is the same as the UK, there's a presumption of innocence. So you can have that presumptions, but I think that if there are convictions recorded and he's found guilty, then that changes the nature of the beast in terms of how Charles and the monarchy deals with Andrew. And I think they probably would be attuned to the fact that the public would, particularly for such heinous crimes, if they're proven, that I think most would want to see that there's swift action, that there is a consequence, and the consequence really, if you look at the level of those allegations, does involve time inside. So that may be at His Majesty's pleasure, but in a different setting than what he's currently experiencing at the moment on one of the farms.
Okay, last thing. How old are your kids now?
Oldest 19, youngest 11.
Okay, when was the last time, you have no idea where I'm going with this, so I'm going to get...
It worries me.
No. When was the last time you had to pay for a babysitter? Do you remember?
Oh, geez. Yeah, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I'd reckon.
Okay, there's a story today, and I wanted to throw... You talk about cost of living, okay? You talk about cost of living. According to the Darcy Fitzgerald, who's a national education reporter with the Daily Telegraph, Australian parents are spending $183.6 million annually on babysitting. Canberrans pay the most, with an average cost of $86.60 per session. Tasmanians, they pay the least, $43.70. South Australians, $49 per session. It was a survey of 1,012 Australian parents. And get this, one parent said that they've actually paid $500 a night for a babysitter. That's what, Who needs to become a Sparky or a heart surgeon?
Yeah.
A professional babysitter at $500 a pop? Anyway.
Yeah. I don't see the logic in that. It must have been a good night out to spend $500 just for the babysitter. I'd like to know what the rest of the night was, because it would have been a hell of a night if you're paying that for a babysitter.
$500. Look, there's obviously more. Look, this could be well and truly Daily Telegraph clickbait, but I saw the story there and I thought I'd chuck it in at the end. And the question for my listeners is, do you have a child that babysits? What's the rate? What is the going rate per hour for a babysitter where you are? Let us know, because if it's anything less than $86.60 for like they pay in Canberra, you're being ripped off. And by the way, is it cash? Do you claim it? There's a thought, David Littleproud.
Yeah, oh, definitely, mate. I've $80 an hour. I'd be happy to take that, I can tell you. And
well, I'll see what my listeners have to say. It's the subsidised dining room at Canberra. That's what it is. They've got way too much. Can you buy a fish lunch? Remember Bob Catter and the cash drama with his fish lunch at the dining room at Parliament House? Is it true they don't take cash, or has he fixed that?
I think it's been fixed. I think. Okay. I think last time I went to the trough, you could pay with cash. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could pay with cash. I lose it too much, so I use a card. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. I'm more than sure that was fixed. The speaker stepped in and made that change to ensure cash was accepted at the trough.
Can you get fish and chips?
You can, yeah. But I always go to salad, mate. So
well, you just have the salad. Do they have Do they have a salad bar?
Yeah. No, it's actually pretty good what they've got.
What do they got? Give me an example. If you're going there for dinner, or lunch?
Oh, dinner? No, I'd very rarely do dinner.
Okay, lunch.
I'll do lunch.
What's on the menu off the top of your head?
Normally there's about 4 different salads. Then it'll be like it'll have a little bit of meat in it, like might be a Thai salad or something, and a lot of greens.
Caesar salad, maybe a bit of chicken and mayo.
You can get a Caesar salad, you can get sashimi, you can get all sorts of things. And then in the hot box side, fish and chips, there's pies. They'll have curries. Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to have a pie.
There's pies.
Yeah, and then there's curries and a lot of vegetables and that sort of stuff. So there's a hot box side. And
is there a carvery? Can you get roast beef and roast lamb?
That's they do have special
chicken palmy.
Actually, I think you can get a chicken palmy. You got to wait for that.
Okay, well, I'm going to invite myself next time in Canberra. I'll give you plenty of warning, and we'll go to lunch. I've got to wear a jacket. Have I got to wear a tie and a jacket?
Not to the trough.
Okay.
I didn't remember you would, but to the trough, everyone that's there can go in so long as you got normal attire. You can't wear thongs, obviously.
Oh, well, you're safe. We'll do that one day. David Littleproud, always good to talk to you, mate. Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody wants that peace of mind. I'll be honest with you. We had been trying to eradicate pests for a long time. And then Kelsey keeps turning up.
Hey!
In all seriousness, if you want real peace of mind, talk to my mate Andrew from Pestrol. I've known Andrew for over 20 years, and his team know exactly how to deal with this stuff. The best part? It's all DIY. You don't have to call someone out straight away. Start simple. Grab a Pestrol rodent-free max. You just plug it into the wall. There are no poisons, no traps. It just goes straight to work and drives the pests away. They've got over 5,000 products. So if it's crawling, flying or chewing in the house, in your shed, in your garage, out at the farm, they have got a product for it. Jump online to pestrol.com.au. And this is important. Use the code BONA, B-O-N-A. Use that code and you get free delivery. Don't forget it, B-O-N-A at checkout. It lets them know you came from the Bonafide podcast, and it really helps support what we do here. Helps keep this little pest Kelsey around too.
Hey,
she needs a roof over her head without any pests in it.
Back to the script.
Head to pestrol.com.au. Do it now. Problem solved. Well, it's been a while since we've had real estate guru Charles Tarby, the owner, CEO, chairman of Century 21, Australasia, South Pacific, Southeast Asia, UAE, India, and everywhere except North Korea and Venezuela. Charles Tarby, Century 21, g'day, brother.
Hey, how you doing, Luke?
I'm good. Gee, you're very hard to get hold of. You spend a lot of time overseas. Does it get you down, or do you still find it exciting?
It's all right, actually. The only part about it I don't like is I actually don't like being away from family, and it's some circumstances with the boys being so young, you just can't take them. You can't travel. And Amy was going to go to Dubai with me 3 times last year, and all 3 times it cancelled due to boys being ill or timing. Or now, of course, the Iranian attack on the UAE. Business as usual over there. I haven't been since the attack, but my team are there, and two of my team from Sydney have been there and back 3 times. So as far as they're concerned, if you didn't know there was a war on, you wouldn't know.
Right, really. Isn't that interesting? Because you're very clever tapping into that market, especially India, which has a really huge growth in middle-class income. And I guess they're your target demographic. But someone else with a growing middle-class demographic is China. Would you go into China?
China's already there. It's not a region that...
Century 21?
Oh, it's massive in China, Luke. That started probably about 25 years ago. Started with a couple of entrepreneurs who still own the business, or most of the business is publicly owned now.
Right.
There's another... public company out of China that's a tech company that's engaged in it. And if I tell you, you'll be shocked, but there's over 10,000 offices in China now of Century 21.
Wow.
You can't go anywhere in China without seeing the brand. And here's the other interesting thing. It is in Venezuela.
Oh, really?
It is. And it's a lady who's a lawyer. For some reason, she was doing work with real estate practitioners, found the calling, approached the American parent that bought the brand for Venezuela. And now she has hundreds of offices in Venezuela.
Wow.
Veronica, lovely lady.
You missed out.
Yeah, you're right about North Korea, though. But you're right about North Korea.
Good luck with that.
The interesting thing with China, how they structured it, we're structuring the same in India. Rather than going in and opening up a real estate office and trying to sell franchises, we've broken it up into 126 cities. So China broke up their region into 171 cities. They found an entrepreneur for each city, and then they educated that entrepreneur to go in and grow that city. So the entrepreneur owns the rights to the city, and it sort of filters up where the corporation will provide training, IT platforms, anything that's required. And that's what we're doing in India. We're breaking it up 126 cities. However, in UAE, I've kept it as though it's my own real estate office. So I have a partner there, and a chap called Peter Matthews, who's taken some equity there. And he's the one driving what we call Century 21 Middle East Group, which will include India and Saudi Arabia as well in the near future.
Wow.
And those areas are mind-blowing. The English have been there for years. So we met an English lawyer who's been there for close to 25 years. Most of the real estate companies are English-based companies. So with Century 21 starting there, it's shaking them up a little bit because C21's probably, I would say, the only real global brand that is operating there. And we opened officially just a week ago. A number of salespeople who are experienced that have joined us is quite incredible, mainly because the MD, Alex Pearson, there for us is already well known. And he's attracted a lot of agents who've attracted other agents, but they're also attracted to the fact that C21's in 81 countries around the world. And the UAE itself relies very heavily on international buyers.
Yeah. I'm going to get to the government's tax changes. They call them tax incentives. Others are saying it's a disincentive to start a small business. So I want to get to that because there are some really interesting figures from a Roy Morgan poll out today saying that confidence in starting up a business in New South Wales is at its lowest ebb ever, certainly the lowest since COVID. I want to get to that in a sec. Hold that thought. However, these tax changes, negative gearing, capital gains tax, Charles, what, as far as you, the boss of Century 21, what are your agents and what are the vendors, what are the sellers, what are the buyers saying? Is this going to help? Are these changes going to help younger Kelseys, Australians, get into a home or not? That's the bottom line question.
It is a big issue because tax is an issue, and it's been we're watching it unfold already. We have been for quite some time. You only have to look at Victoria, look at the various property taxes that they've implemented, and watch the exodus of landlords from Victoria into Queensland. And other states. Adelaide now, for example, the median price in Adelaide is same or slightly higher than the median price of Melbourne. Can you believe that? And Adelaide's a beautiful city, but Melbourne was Melbourne was voted the number one city in the world recently. And if you think that the price of property in Adelaide is higher than Melbourne, same as in Perth, same as in Queensland, then what's telling you is that the property taxes that drive people away from investing in real estate are going to cause problems. And which is the state that's in the biggest trouble at the moment? Victoria. It's incredible because they're introducing all sorts of legislation. To give you an example of something they're introducing, and that is that prior to an auction, 1 week prior to an auction, you have to disclose the reserve price to the buyer.
Oh, really?
It's remarkable.
That's a massive change.
I know. And you think to yourself, what's the purpose of an auction? The purpose of an auction is to expose a vendor's property to as many people as possible, create an enthusiastic room full of bidders who compete against each other. And now they're advising that you will know what the vendor wants a week before the auction.
Wow.
So when
because there's been a massive complaint for many years now, and Kelsey and Nathan experienced it, where the agent, I've told you this story, just to remind people, the agent, they said, what's the field, what sort of field are we dealing with? What's the ballpark?
Underquoting.
And they gave them a number, and they put in a bid, and it ended up selling way above what the agent suggested, but they turned up along with 150 other people and walked away disappointed, and it was nowhere near what the agent quoted. Now, is that the agent's fault? Or in the world of auctions, these things can happen.
Some agents, I can honestly say to you, there's some agents, yes, that's their tactic. And again, as per normal, the small number of issues that occur creates a blanket over the entire industry and creates an issue to state that the agents are all doing that. That's just not correct. Most people, in fact, 99% of the population can find out the value of a property nowadays very clearly, very, very quickly. You only have to go on REA or Domain or CoreLogic, and you can find out where most of the valuers go to find out what a property's worth. The problem is supply and demand, Luke. And so I can tell you there are times in the industry where we had that much stock and hardly any buyers. I would be doing auctions. I'd be standing at the front of a room, and it wouldn't matter what price the agent quoted. I'd be standing at the front of the room, and as soon as I started talking, the agents would disappear and go to the bar because they knew there were no buyers there. So I'd be standing there trying to get people to bid. It's a supply and demand issue, and I've been through those cycles so many times. In the last 10 years, one of the things that the respective governments have done without even realising is that they have increased the population to such an extent that the supply issue has become the problem. And so, look, if you've got 10 people looking at one property, and yes, you put a value there, then often people will go way above the value. I've seen it so many times where people will bid more than they should have bid. Yes, there are agents, some recently, that the Department of Fair Trading in New South Wales have taken a task and determined that they shouldn't be operating as real estate practitioners. And these are people who genuinely underquoted just to get crowds there. That's the way. But a buyer can today, if they do their homework, can see exactly what the agent's seeing, Luke. We're not fortune tellers. We go off data, and that data tells us one thing. There are 4 prices for a property. 1, the buyer will pay, 2, what the vendor wants, 3, what the agent thinks it's worth, and 4, what a value will place on it. So it's pretty hard for people to get.
But at the end of the day, it's only worth what someone bids for in the driveway or at the auction house. So, I mean, the reserve price, let's just say the reserve price is $1 million. I'm just pulling that. Let's deal with it. And so everyone turning up in Victoria will say, okay, well, it's on the market at $1 million. And that might be indeed what realestate.com or CoreLogic, Tim Lawler says it's worth. But if somebody wants it bad enough and the competition's strong enough and the supply is low enough, it could still well go over. It could go to 1.5. And that's not the agent's fault, and that's not the vendor's fault.
An office called me in Victoria. They were very concerned at a property they put to auction, and it went 400,000 over the reserve. And I said, just ring the fair trading in your state and advise them of what's happened, because, these people just got into a fight over it. There was something about that property.
Which is what you want.
That we didn't know. The vendor didn't know, but the vendor wasn't unhappy about the result. That is not going to happen nowadays if you put a reserve price out into the marketplace.
I want to talk to you about tips for how to win at an auction. And we'll do that in just a second. But you talked about supply and the federal government saying, okay, we are committed to building 1.2 million new homes in 5 years. The New South Wales government, which is a Labor state, is saying that is ridiculous. There is no way. We haven't got the builders. They haven't got the apprentices. We don't have the building materials. That is pie in the sky. Is it? Is 1.2 million homes over the next 5 years realistic?
Fortunately for me, having been in a position where I've had to report on a weekly basis. When I was doing Sky Business every week, you'd be on air and you get your stats. And I've got my stats that go back 30 years every single week in every single capital city in Australia on price movement. So I can quote you every single week what the price average was in any capital city across the country. And I can tell you, going back then in 2010, I went back and had a look. We were on Sky Business talking about this. And we said to meet the demand for 2020 immigration, Australia needs to grow another 200,000 homes. That's all it was. Another 200,000 homes in that period of time to keep up with the pace of the generation of buyers coming through along with immigration. Now, again, respective governments have created an issue. But here's the thing. You and I have spoken about this before. You can look at federal government, they can say what they want to say. They can sit there and they can get all of the paperwork done and create the whole bunch of things that they want to create. Then you've got the state government. So they're completely different bodies altogether. But the ones that control what happens on the ground, to the best of my knowledge, are the local councils. For me here at my home where I'm sitting today, I wanted to put a layback from the road onto a driveway into my
I remember this. Yeah, go on, tell the story. This is local government bureaucracy.
I did what you're supposed to do. I spoke to council, and they said, "Look, yes, you'll need to get an architect to draw it up, and you'll need to lodge the drawings to get a DA to put the layback in." I said, "So the laybacks I see popping up every second weekend around the area, they've all come through you?" "Oh no, they're illegal."
So just explain what a layback is.
A concrete slab from the road to my driveway. That's it. So I had to get the architect to draw up a rectangle.
A rectangle.
And lodge it with local council.
Did he do it on a coaster or a napkin?
It is extraordinary. There are.
How much did that cost? How much did it cost to get an architect to draw a picture of a rectangle? Come on.
I can't remember. It was so long ago. I've just never forgotten the story.
I remember that story.
So there are some councils in Australia, when developers lodge a DA, they go straight to Land and Environment Court around the same time. It's just difficult. And even now with the Minns government talking about the fact that you can build, go from whether it's 6 levels to 10 levels now, if you are close to a railway station or transport area, then that increased the price of property significantly. And I know one of my team had a property in that area, and the price of his property tripled in value, and had a buyer, and the buyer bought the property. They'll still have a fight with local council as far as I'm concerned. And I did the same thing every time I've dealt with local council. It's the same thing. I'm still dealing with councils in various parts of Sydney with small developments that I have, and I am still battling like you would not believe to get simple stuff done. So if the federal government thinks they're going to get 1.2 million, and the other day they said, I don't know about this, I'm a bit confused. I'm damn sure I heard Jim Chalmers say, in this latest budget, we've set aside $2 billion for housing to build another 65,000 homes. Now, I divided $2 billion by 65,000, and I think it came in under $40,000. I can't work out the numbers. I don't know how they're doing it. I really don't know how they're going to do it. And because you and I both know when you say this is a government development, the price triples.
Of course it does. But there are federal laws, and you're talking about local council here, which needs a kick in the ass, but the state laws, for example, state laws pertaining to stamp duty, which is another huge speed hump for a buyer, depending on
land tax,
the house.
stamp duty,
land tax,
LSL, long service leave. It's a fund that I had to pay into, which was a percentage of the development I was doing. Where does it go? It's a long service leave for builders.
I didn't know that. So then let's talk about this. Every tradesman I've spoken to has said, I can't find an apprentice. Now, you've got couple of generations of Australian kids who would rather go to university than go to TAFE and get a trade. What's wrong? Why can't we find apprentices?
I don't know, Luke. I had the same experience when I was doing a development recently where I said to the builder, what's with this hourly rate? I mean, you're charging me cost price plus 10%. That's fine. How does an apprentice carpenter earn $75 an hour? If I take off your 10%, how does an apprentice earn $67 something an hour? But if I was a young apprentice and I knew that I could get that much, I'd be there in a flash. So I'm not sure whether what we're being told is correct, Luke. I'm just not sure.
But traditionally, I had mates who left in year 10 and went and got a trade. And traditionally, mum and dad subsidised you and looked after you while you were earning shit money while you were at tech. And the light at the end of the tunnel was when you became a sparky or a chippy or a builder or whatever, you were going to earn good wages. But mum and dad looked after you during that period because the builder couldn't afford to pay you proper wages. Otherwise, the cost of building that structure would skyrocket. That's the way it used to work. So is it about money?
I think it could be about money, but also when I spoke to the builders that were doing project for me, it was always the same. We're struggling to get carpenters. We're struggling to get chip.
Yep.
We're struggling to get.
I've got a mate down the road, Michael, the mechanic. He can't find an apprentice mechanic. Cannot find one.
Who are these people we're bringing into the country? I can promise you now, one of the parts of the reasons I purchased India and UAE is the connection between the Indian diaspora. I mean, there's 1.5 billion people in India, and 1% of their population is our entire workforce in Australia. And there must be some highly educated, well, I know they are and I don't mean to be rude, but when I walk into a 7-Eleven or into a hotel or into an Uber, I always ask the driver, what did you study when you were in India? And I get so many
engineering.
There's that. It's extraordinary. So if we are bringing these people into Australia, how are we engaging them? All of a sudden we're saying you're qualified, but you're not qualified to work here. And that seems to be the case. You go and you think about that environment and you wonder with all of these educated people, why can't they come in and start working straight away? I think that would solve the problem because from what I can see with the Indian diaspora, they're hard-working people who want to come here, earn a living, make money, buy a home. That's how I see it. I don't see them lazing around. So what has gone wrong?
Is it a work ethic?
Look, the thing...
Or is it that the people in India are just hungry?
They're hungry. When my parents came here from Lebanon, they walk around the streets looking at how long has this been going on for? I can actually work here for a living, So,
wow. How long ago was that?
1947. Yeah, 1947. Look, then the issue we have with housing at the moment, and inadvertently, I think that the respective governments that have been around, and the current government that's been around for a little bit longer than most, is that the supply and the demand are the issue. And if you are going to increase the demand and not do anything about the supply, you're going to have a long-standing real estate growth market. I can tell you now, we have had nothing but growth. Even COVID, that little hiccup in COVID, we have had massive growth in real estate for the last 10 years. And people say, it's going to slow down. I can tell you the only thing that's going to slow it down is a massive increase in interest rates, which I don't think will happen. They may be progressive, or the global economies crash. Because even though you talk to auctioneers now and they tell you it's tougher out there to extract a bid, they're still selling property. And the best real estate agents, the ones that have been around that understand face-to-face, voice-to-voice, belly-to-belly, contact-to-contact with people, not just sending 1,000 emails and hoping something happens or putting something fancy on social media. The agents that know how to communicate with people probably sell fewer homes, but they'll earn more. And I don't think our market's in a state of crash at all.
Well, just trying to be fair, it does sound like a good idea that negative gearing won't change. You can still negative gear a new property. The thing is, you've got to build a new property. I mean, on paper, it sounds like a fair thing, is it?
No, it's ridiculous because where the majority of first-home buyers buy is in the new home sector because it's more affordable, because it's generally further out away from population. So anybody I sold a home to when I was selling real estate in Penrith, which in those days I was so far away getting into the city, it'd take you an hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes. Now it takes me 40 minutes to drive from the Blue Mountains, one freeway straight into the city, non-peak. They were first home buyers because that's all they could afford. So what you've just effectively done is pushed all of the investors will go where they need to go. And keep in mind, investors aren't people who own properties. Investors are somebody who is about to become an investor to buy their first investment. Now, where are they going to go? They're going to go where they can afford, and they're going to be pushed into that arena, into the new home market where the federal government is saying, oh, it's going to make it less competitive for first-home buyers. Really?
So Charles Tarby, what's the feedback from the market via your agents? I want to talk about buyers and sellers. What's the feedback?
Right,
since the budget. We're 3 weeks since the budget now.
Okay, you're back to landlords saying, right, might be time to take my money and put it elsewhere. Now, that's step one of increasing rents. That's stage one. And we've seen this before. Negative gearing was introduced before. Stage two is that those people who had value and equity in their properties that have been there for years have all of a sudden had their equity stabilised. I wouldn't say reduced, but it's certainly stabilised for the moment until we get through this marketplace. And the third thing that's happened for me is it started with the interest rate rises. And those interest rate rises are now going to impact on those young couples who were brought into the marketplace at 95% loan value ratio with a 15% government guarantee. They've got 95% loans. And when they borrowed that money, it was 3 interest rate increases ago. Where are those people going to sit? And so they're the ones that I'm concerned about. What decisions are they going to make? The inquiries we're getting for UAE, for example, are there because there's no property tax, there's no capital gains tax, there's no income tax, there's a 9% company tax. And so you wonder why these people are moving their businesses and uprooting their investments and moving elsewhere. If you go to India, just outside one of the main cities, all the major American companies, international companies have set up. It's become a hub for international tech and growth. It's almost going to be the same as what happened with the tech boom in Los Angeles and everybody moved to Silicon Valley. It's almost the same. Taxes cheaper, everything's cheaper, people can build cheaper. And so we have issues here. We do need immigration, but we need immigration that is going to contribute.
Smart immigration.
Going to contribute. My parents came, they started working straight away. Yep. That's it, you know. And
smart immigration.
And I think that's what we need. And we don't have that, we're in trouble.
I want to get onto auctions. According to realestate.com, about 20% of properties sold around Australia are sold or bought at auction. But the auction clearance rates have fallen a little bit the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But let's go to auctions. Charles, what are your tips? And we can go through buyers at this point. If you are thinking of trying to buy a house at an auction, what are your top tips? What will give you the edge?
Okay, well, let me just say that the clearance rates are not bad. Now, when they were in the 70s and 80s, that's too high. In the 50s and 60s, that's actually a very healthy auction market. I can take you back to when they were in the 30s and 40s, Luke. The best thing that the person bidding at auction, obviously they've got a limit. People have got a limit. If they're going to an auction and they're contributing, they've got a limit of, say, $1 million. So they bid up to $1 million. They've just contributed to supporting the auction campaign in such a way that anybody who can go to $1.05 million is just going to wait for them to bid to $1 million. That's the first thing. So they're actually contributing to the success of the auction.
Okay, so what do you do then?
Well, you know, if you have If you have a limit, don't get caught up in the process. I took a young couple to auction, which is easy for me to do when it's another real estate agent's auction. I won't do it if it's a C21 property, obviously, or a Better Homes and Gardens real estate auction. I'm not going to do that. But if it's somebody that wants to bid at an auction somewhere else, one of the first things I did was speak to the agent. Speak to the agent first and foremost. Make the agent your contact. Make the agent your friend. Build your relationship with the agent. I'm saying this openly because we have a wonderful saying that if you build a relationship, conditions become negotiable. And if I have a relationship with somebody out there, I can get things done. You know this yourself. If you had a relationship with people in various businesses around the field, you can get more done than the average person. So
But when the agent says to you, what's your budget? Or if the agent says 22 Smith Street, what do you think it's worth? What's your research?
Don't talk
and you say,
price. Don't.
Hey?
Don't.
Because the agent's using that feedback to go back to the vendor and say, this is what the market's telling me.
Well, we always tell the vendor, don't talk price. If you tell the agent a price before the auction, you've already set a target. So if I was auctioning my property here today and I brought an agent in, they said, Charles, what do you want? I said, I'll tell you on the day of the auction when we're standing at the lectern. Well, you got an idea. I said, look, you know what? I'm thinking of selling for a variety of reasons. They're private, but I'm letting you know, I'll tell you what the reserve is based on the feedback you give me. Now, never talk price. That's the first thing.
Never talk price,
Never
folks.
talk
Never
price.
tell the agent. Right, okay.
Build your relationship with the agent. Build your relationship with the agent. If you're walking past the office, drop a coffee in. Build your relationship. The agent will talk to you differently. You're going to be one of 50 other people. The agent doesn't have time to communicate personally with all these different types of people. Your best thing is to make sure that you have a good, strong relationship with the agent. I don't know quite what it is, but people talk differently to each other when there's a relationship. Okay?
I agree with you. So
don't talk price.
Mention price. Build a relationship with the agent. What's your next tip?
That will indicate to you whether you're wasting your time going to the auction, Luke, first and foremost. So if you're going to the auction, you may just be going to the auction as an observer. But if you are a genuine bidder, right, a lot of people wait to bid. And when they bid poorly. They bid poorly. Most auctioneers, not all nowadays, are sort of changing their tune a fair bit, will say, ladies and gentlemen, it's on the market. I'm selling.
That means the reserve price has been reached.
Means they've reached it. So if you help contribute to that, they're going to be targeting you throughout the auction to help push it to that level. So if you bid too early, it's dangerous.
Is it? Right. So keep your mouth shut. For how long?
You'll know when. You'll know when the time is right. You'll feel when the time is right. Some auctioneers are very good at building momentum. Some are not that good at it. And there's a lot of auctioneers. I've never seen more auctioneers come out of the woodwork in all my life because the market has been such that an agent can get a property for sale, put an auctioneer at the front, and people will throw money at the auctioneer until they've run out of money. There's no real skill in it.
But I've seen it on. I've been to a few auctions and I've seen all of them on telly. And the good auctioneers, they're performers, aren't they?
Well, when you say good auctioneers, that's probably what we should be talking about. They are auctioneers. They're not good auctioneers. They're auctioneers. The rest of them should be going back to listing and selling real estate instead of standing out the front yelling numbers and yelling people or embarrassing buyers into bidding. So that's part of the process. That's normal. It's normal. My advice is that when you do bid, you bid strongly. So when I'm doing an auction and somebody gives, and I'm reaching that point where I'm at that $1 million number and somebody comes in with $1,000. If I say no to that 1,000, I might be hindering the vendor. But to me, it's weakening your position if you're going to bid at $1,000 bids. If I go to an auction and bid on behalf of people, I never end up on an odd number.
Tell me why.
Because if you do, somebody will go $100 more or $1,000 more. So if you say 176, 1,076,000, and you're telling me that the person standing there won't go to 77,000 and then 78,000 and then 79, that they're at 1,000 increments. So if I'm bidding on behalf of somebody and we're sitting at $1,070,000 and I look to them and I say, look, in 5 years' time, if you went from $1,070,000 to 1.1, the 30,000 means nothing. So do it if you can. Can you do it? Yes, we can. Bang, $1.1 million. You basically let the other bidders know you're not going to muck around.
Okay, then and then the bloke next to you says $1 and $15.
That's right. Well, the auctioneer probably won't take that, but
He won't take
probably
it.
won't take that. But the point is that you're letting people know if you stop at 1,199,000. If you get to that point, you're the bidder at 1,099,000. Honestly, do you think the person next to you is going to stop and not go to 1.1? So you've got to stop mucking around and you've got to make a decisive move. Now, making that decisive move is a timing issue. And so you'll notice it. You'll see. You can wait there all the way and the auctioneer will go 1, 2, and you'll see the hesitation. You know they're not quite there, or you'll know they're there. And that's when you come in with your best bid. That's when you let other people know that you are there to buy that property. And if you
so you wait till he says, calling it once, and he's got his catalogue out, right? Twice. Is that when you come in?
Oh, here you are. This is where you yell out, "Is it on the market?" And the auctioneer will either go, "Yes, I'm calling it on the market," or the auctioneer will go, "Are you bidding? Yes or no?" They'll play it along a bit further. So it depends on the auctioneer that you have, and it's important that you know that just as an auctioneer has skills, so does a buyer have skills, because at the end of the day, it's the buyer that puts the money down.
But it's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world.
I know.
It's the biggest thing you'll ever acquire.
Even for an auctioneer, it's nerve-wracking.
All right. What else do we need to know? What else gives you the edge?
Well, I think you've covered it, Luke, but I think one of the most important parts is building your relationship. Building your relationship, when you ring to ask a question, you're not just another buyer calling. You're somebody that the agent knows a little bit and will talk to you for a little bit longer. And that's all you really need to know. Most auctioneers, at the end of the day, they work with the agents. They have to work with the agents because they've got to understand the situation, and they jump from property to property. Some of the auctioneers will jump from one to the other. Some really great auctioneers will have met the vendor, done their research, visited the property, spoken to the agent, spoken to the vendors, really understand the need, and they will work the room fantastically. You might get lucky and get an average auctioneer, and the things I've just spoken to you work really well. But again, if you wanted to find out what the hell's going on, you build a relationship with somebody who is in the know with what's going on.
Yeah. You won't believe what happened to Kelsey and Nathan. I might have told you this, but they went from auction to auction to auction, only to be outbid way above what the agent said the parameters were, and I'm very disappointed. Anyway, they went to one place, and the agent said, I think it'll go for 1. Let's just say 1. And so Nathan's come in with a bid of 900, right? And eventually it went way past $1 million, way past the projected price, and they walked away disappointed again. But what amazed me was the agent that had listed this place, and it was a big franchise, not yours, but the agents there with their 3 representatives going around to different people in the auction and talking to them. They let Kelsey and Nathan walk away down the footpath, up the street, disappointed, without chasing them, knowing full well that they had $900,000 to spend. You would have thought that the agent would have said, "Hey, listen, come to me. We may have something else on our books that'll suit you in the same area." Didn't chase them. Just let them walk away, knowing that they've turned up at an auction with $900K.
One of the benefits of running an auction campaign, Luke, is that you've got people who are qualified to buy in front of you. Not only that, you've got local people who come to have a look because they're thinking of selling. So just in that little group of people, you have the next lot of business you can do. And again, that's poor practice. I mentioned before the best real estate agents, face-to-face, voice-to-voice, belly-to-belly, contact-to-contact, they're still the best agents. The majority of agents in our industry today, the only difference between what it was like when I was selling real estate 30 or 40 or 50 years ago was that we would drop flyers. Now you send emails. We would do a property broadcast today. Then we would send out brochures. But the best agents were the ones that followed through. The best agents are the ones that spoke to people, because you can get something out of a conversation that you can't get out of sending an email. And I think that's exactly an example of what you just said. The agents are just not understanding that communication is still the key. Still the key.
There was an Ipsos trustworthiness poll taken recently. You ready for this?
How did we go?
I'm going to tell you because I didn't. I'm just underneath you. The most distrusted professions in Australia. You ready?
Yeah.
Number one. Or do you want me to go? What? I'll start at one. Social media influencers.
No, I can't believe it.
That was politicians.
Oh,
number two.
Wow.
Advertising executives.
Oh, wait till I tell our group that.
Car salespeople.
Jeez.
And they have usually been at the bottom of,
yes,
of
they
the
have.
ethics list, but they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 real estate agents and 6 journalists and media reporters.
Would you send me that, please? I've got a convention coming up. I might just use that to let people know we're improving. Luke, I've got to say to you that without realising it, the various federal governments and state governments, particularly federal governments, have actually helped our industry go through what I've seen as one of the longest property increase cycles, apart from the hiccup with COVID, in the entire time I've been in real estate. I have never seen a property growth mode, if I go back in just the last 10 years alone, where property prices continued to increase, slowly in some areas, but overall continued to increase time after time, month after month, year after year. And I thought I'd seen it all, but when I look back, I realise now that the constant push to bring people into this country without providing for them first or having a plan to provide for them first has been the reason. We have had a supply and demand issue, as far as I can tell, going back to 2010, of over 15 years, a supply and demand issue, until a government realises that they should not be involved in developing 1.2 million houses. They should be giving it to private enterprise who they tax to run the economy, who will get the job done quickly because their asses are on the line. There's not one single politician who loses money in a deal in this country that will lose their job or lose their home. Not one single one. And until they recognise that if they push it back out into free enterprise where people like you, people like me have to put our houses on the line to make this work, and we slog our guts out until it happens, this issue of supply will never, ever be resolved.
What do you say to the Gen Zs, the millennials and the younger Australians? Because I think, and this is only my opinion, I think the budget shows that you and I are not their demographic. The boomers, they don't give a shit about us. The Kelseys, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong.
I know she will.
Yeah, she will. But the perception is that anyone with an investment property is just a greedy capitalist. What do you say to that attitude?
How else can somebody grow? Owning your own home is not an investment, because if you want to make sure that you realise that investment, you've got to sell your home and then you've got to go and find somewhere else to live. You've got to be able to invest above and beyond your own property. Now, you can do that through stock. You can throw it into super, and you know that superannuation is going to be something that will give you a return in most cases, but probably not the best personal return because you're not in control of that situation. What do you do? Now, we've all been brought up to understand that if you invest and buy a home, I was brought up to think that right from the age of 18. I bought my first home. I don't know how, but I managed to buy my first home when I was 18, and it appreciated in value within 2 years to the extent that it was tax-free, and it gave me the money to open my first real estate office in my early 20s.
But what do you say to Kelsey, who's saying we've got no hope of buying? Luckily, she has bought into Sydney.
That is because you have successive governments who continue to make promises that they are going to build homes for the community.
1.2 million.
And they have not done it. They continue to talk about it. Google, if you can, the $2 billion they've added into the budget to build 65,000 homes. I'm sure that's what I heard. Google it and then divide 65,000 into 2 billion and see what you get. This is the problem. Give it to free enterprise. Stop mucking around. Stop making promises you are never going to keep. You haven't kept for the last 15 to 16 years that I've been watching it. Give it to private enterprise where people take risks, take challenges, and you will find that people can earn money through that instead of the government being overpriced and being overpaid by a small minority of groups to get a job done that they never complete on time and never complete on budget. How many times do we have to learn this, for God's sake?
Charles, there was something else I wanted to talk about. It might have to wait until you're back from your very busy schedule for next time, because it's an interesting observation. You talk about startup companies, and I think one of the most successful startup companies that is absolutely dominating its market is REA Group, realestate.com.au. Now, you remember back in the day, Charles, because I was in media back in these days, that if you wanted to sell a house, it was almost the number one source of income, of revenue for newspapers. And the real estate supplements, especially on Saturdays, even in my local paper, the Manly Daily, that colour supplement was great. It's gone. Manly Daily, by the way, is all online now. But the agents would pay to have a photo of a house, and that was the way real estate was marketed. Well, since the internet, the REA Group and realestate.com.au have just absolutely taken over. And that's where most people go now. And it's very clever how they have the algorithm running, because if you go online and you're looking for a house, put in your suburb, put in your postcode, put in your price range, that is precious data. That is really precious data that REA can take to the agents, can take to Century 21 and say, listen, look what we've got here. I know exactly the demographic. I know how much they've got to spend. I know what suburbs are sought after, possibly because of schools and et cetera. It is amazing, isn't it? Now, Century, everyone uses realestate.com, and they're not the only ones, but they're the biggies. And it's incredible how this has changed now, isn't it?
65% of the wealth of Murdochs is tied up in REA. Just to give you an idea of the billions of dollars. Now, I have a story that takes you all the way back.
It was founded in 1995.
Well, I can take you all the way back to 1995. And
go on, tell us about REA, real estate.
It's a long story, so another time. But
go on, give us a rough outline.
I was involved. Macquarie Bank was involved at first, and they tried to connect my company with REA.com out of Victoria.
In 95.
95. Then group of four, myself, Ray White, LJ Hooker, Raynard Horn, we met to talk about controlling our data because our data was leaking everywhere. Yeah. And REA was one of those organisations, no different than CoreLogic or so on, that would take our data. They would put it into a blender and then they'd sell it back to us. And so it's like every industry now. Data seems to be king. We set up our own practices as well to ensure that we kept control of our data and worked our data. But the REA story is a deep one.
It started in a garage in Melbourne.
Yeah, I'm close to there.
And they would have had a hell of a time convincing the Century 21s, the Ray Whites, the LJ Hookers, because the internet wasn't the go.
But they did it. They did it financially, Luke. They did it through equity transfer, and I'm one of. There were four people involved, as I mentioned at the start. Two of them have since passed away. The other is pretty much out of the day-to-day activities of business. I have all of the paperwork when that happened, and I will be telling a much bigger story about REA and how it came about. And you can be my investigative journalist on this, because I have the material to explain to you how REA got the power they got.
Well, there is no doubt that since probably the year 2000, which is when I started doing a real estate show on 2GB with John Edwards.
That's right, yeah.
And I think we auditioned Louis Christopher.
Yeah.
And then we ended up with RP Data and Mark Maraza. And that was the show that you came on as a regular. Yeah. But it started in 2000. And back in those days, the database was on like a cassette. because the internet was so unreliable.
So slow.
We couldn't go online and give people.
Yeah.
So what we did with RP Data was people would ring up the week before. Mark would have a whole list of properties. He'd do his homework, and then we would pretend that it was live, only because if the internet fell over, we didn't have a show. How things have changed since those days. And without a doubt, since 1995, Jesus, starting up in a garage in Melbourne.
I really want to.
REA.
I really want
REA.
I really want to tell you the story. BB wants to say hello to you. She keeps
hang
coming
on.
over. There we go, Ben.
Hello, BB.
Sit there.
Oh,
There we go.
God. If Kelsey was here, she'd melt. Kelsey's got a little one like that called Riley.
All right.
How old's BB?
BB is 8 years old, and she's 2 kilos. Look. 2
Hello,
kilos.
BB. But we'll talk about
But
realestate.com and REA.
I do have
because
a story.
It is now the definitive hub for residential and commercial listings.
All
It
real
is-
estate agents bellyache about the prices that we're being charged and the vendors are being charged.
But you charge the vendor. The agents aren't charged.
Not always, Luke, and not always. And so, but the vendor is paying, in many cases, a premium price. We bellyache about that all of the time. I don't mind saying that. But we were the ones that gave REA the data to start with.
But the data that they are able to generate is priceless. I'll go on now. I'll go on to realestate.com. You can go on to Domain. You can go, but this is the number one, REA. And, okay, I'm looking for a house in Narrabeen, right? Is it a home? How many bedrooms do you want? Is it a unit? So that they've got me. They know who I am. They know my budget. They know the suburb that I'm targeting. That is priceless data.
Yeah. Luke, I think everybody's being challenged at the moment. I can put in our platform, I can put an address of a property that I'm going to conduct a market opinion on.
Yes.
And our AI platform will scan and scrape websites within a 2-kilometre radius of domains or REAs or anything that's public out there, and push back to me the potential of people who are going to sell because they've been there for a period of time, what their home is worth through an automated valuation, how long they've been there, what their home looks like, the whole thing, bring it back to my desktop. So as a real estate agent, instead of door knocking houses within 2 kilometres, I can door knock 10 houses that are potential sellers.
It's unbelievable.
So what I'm trying to say is that although REA is a powerhouse, there's no question, everybody's being challenged through AI. And so wanting information or finding information out now can be done through so many different sources.
Would you recommend listing your home without it going on one of these big databases, or without going to Domain or REA?
I think you can do both. Nowadays, you can take 20 still photographs, put them into a platform, and minutes later, they come out into a moving video, even though the water is a still photograph, the water's moving or the fan is moving.
Yeah.
You can have people walking through the home that don't exist and make the home look real, and put that on social media even before you go to REA. And nowadays, with social media, when you and I were advertising years ago, we had a lot of push through because there was 3 television stations, 7 Channel 9, Channel 10. And when we would do one of our campaigns and we would put those out there, we would find that we'd get cut through. And all of a sudden now there's 500 television stations. But if you look at social media, which is where we are now, and we've just introduced a campaign using Erin Holland, Miss Australia, who's a property flipper married to Ben Cutting. They both love the cricket and they both love property flipping. And Darren Palmer, the judge on the block, who's got his own show coming up on Channel 9, we've engaged them as ambassadors, and they're doing 16 vodcasts for us, and they are professionally produced 20 to 25-minute real estate shows that are produced for Century 21 for the public. You can Google Home of the Century, you'll find it. What's happening is that because we're doing it this way, we're hitting the Instagrams, the Spotifys, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the TikToks, those sorts of platforms. So what I'm trying to say is now you've got 5 or 6 platforms that most of the people are on. So we're back to the days where I could advertise on TV and get cut through. Now I can do it on social and get cut through. So I can advertise a property through socials. If it looks effective, it can probably get a result before it even has to go to and pay. And I did notice, if you look closely, the stock price of most of these domains, most of the sites, have a look at the stock price. They've dropped significantly in the last 6 months. And so I think a lot of them are needing to pick up their game with AI, which they're doing, because they now have competition they didn't have before.
Don't get me started on AI and AI music. God, that's another topic.
And I'm saying this in all seriousness while I've got a puppy in my lap.
Yeah, but that's not a real puppy. It's AI. We can tell. We can tell. Just, I'm going to ask you this. I'll let you go in a minute. But let me ask you this. Do you, as the boss of Century 21, do you and your colleagues watch the ratings surrounding the home renovation shows? Now, you know.
Which show?
I used to be. The real estate home improvement shows, The Block, like The Block.
Yeah.
And you've got that Channel 7 show, My Reno Rules, which is really struggling. Do you think that those home renovation, home improvement shows were massive? The Channel 7 one is struggling, even though it's got that Adrian Portelli handing out money left, right and centre. He's an interesting character, isn't he? He was accused of running an illegal raffle in South Australia. Google that. What do you make of the reality home improvement real estate shows? Do you watch the ratings? Does it? Do you somehow mould a business structure on the ratings of home improvement shows to see what the public's interested in or not?
The only thing that interests me about a home improvement show is whether it rates or not, because if it does, we'll try and advertise in it. But other than that,
of course,
you've got a lot of people running around who can get things done cheaply. Look, if you notice those shows, we started this conversation by talking about auctions and talking about building relationships with people. If you build a relationship, conditions are negotiable. Have you noticed how much they can get done in a short space of time at a price that I could never buy things for? And it's all because of the relationships they have. And if chippies and electricians and gardeners and God knows whoever else know they're going to be on a TV show, they will jump at the chance of doing the work there before they'll do it somewhere else. And
of course, the product placement is
of course. So the reality, I'm not sure if you can call it a reality show because it's not real. I can't get those things done. If I was the average person in the street trying to reno my house, there's no way. I wouldn't even know what paint to buy. I mean, I could have been a carpenter when I was younger, but they called me lightning because, with a hammer, because lightning never strikes twice in the same place. And so,
lightning also happens very quickly, and that's why your missus calls you lightning as well. But that's another topic.
So, yeah, I can't say I subscribe, but I'd love to tell you the REA story one day. It's a great story.
Well, why don't we do it next time? But I won't be able to talk to you for months because you're very hard to get in touch with, and I appreciate you talking to me today.
I'm busy playing golf every day, apparently. Yeah, that's how you build a business, Luke. Play golf every day.
Kangaroo Valley, buy a 9-hole golf course, sight unseen. Get Jack Newton to design it, turn it into a championship 18. But it is a beautiful property, Kangaroo Valley Golf Resort.
Thanks, mate.
If you are, it is. It's my second holiday home, thanks to you.
Well,
but that restaurant that you've got is. We took Kelsey and Nathan and Nathan's parents there for dinner. You hosted us. Thank you so much for that. Did you enjoy? The rain interrupted the golf, but I think you got some holes in. But
I did get some golf in, and you got to eat at one of the best restaurants.
What was that dish? What was that seafood dish?
It's my wife's death row meal. It's called Frigola Marinara. So instead of it being an Italian pizza pasta, it's an Italian seafood upmarket restaurant in the old woolshed there at the Valley. And you can go and play 9 holes, sit down for either a deck lunch or a full restaurant lunch if you want.
Go for a weekend. Go and see Kangaroo Valley. Go into Berry. Get to know that beautiful part of New South Wales.
You can go,
or if you're having a function, a wedding.
You can go horse riding, you can go canoeing, go down a local village and see how they're all going down. Lots of stores with great products in it. You can come and stay with us. We've got, a 3-star to 5-star accommodation. I think we put you in the 5-star one. I'm pretty sure.
Was that the 5-star? Look, if you don't want to do all that, just sit on the veranda, drink a few cans,
watch
have
the
a couple
kangaroos.
of bourbons, watch the kangaroos and play the guitar.
Yeah.
and do what Charles and I do, tell each other how good we are.
Exactly. I didn't have as much time as you, but thank you for giving me some time.
Charles Tarby, lovely to see you, mate.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, what's the little AI dog's name again?
Her name is actually...
Phoebe. I think
No. Her name is Habibi.
Habibi, that's a Lebanese name.
And we call her Bibi for short.
Hello, Bibi. Kelsey's going to melt when she sees this. That is beautiful.
She's the most beautiful little puppy. You know, I'm not a puppy person. Haven't been, but this one here will be the first and last.
You are a sick puppy on occasions, but that's another podcast.
Yeah, first and last.
And Charles, before you go, the book is out soon. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, look, I've written a third book. The first one was Profit-Driven Real Estate Office. Second was Listing Rich, a handbook for salespeople. And this one is 100 life lessons. It's called A Series of Mistakes Corrected. It took me a couple of years. It was about 330 pages, and I then did a podcast around that. Then I gave the podcast and the book to an editor. She cleaned it up. Phaedra, her name is. She cleaned it up as best as she could. I had to pull her up on a few things because my language is a lot more colourful than Phaedra's.
Can you get your publisher? You'll get some preview copies. Can we have
next week? Yeah, next week. This week. Sorry, this week I get some copies.
Can you hold up the? Have you got it on you? Can you hold up the cover?
I've got a.
Come on.
A little bit vain, Luke. We picked the one with my face on the cover.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's your book. You're allowed to have your face on the cover. But mind you, if you had your way, you'd have your face on the currency.
I would, yeah, I'd have face on anything. But Lee Woodward said, why don't you do podcasts? And so I said, okay. And so he publishes it, the 100 life lessons. I said, Lee, I've written 80. He said, oh, I'm sorry, mate. It's already published out there, 100.
Said to come up with another 20. Charles, send us a copy of the book.
I will do.
And tell your publisher we'd like a couple to give away.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
As prizes here in the Bonafide Pod. But can you sign them before they send them?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah.
With another with some more words of wisdom from Charles Tarby.
If I build a relationship, the conditions become negotiable.
Exactly. Everything's negotiable, especially if the relationship's been built correctly. For BB, see you, sweetheart. What a gorgeous little face. Same for you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Luke. Good to speak to you again. Good to speak to you.
Charles Tarby, Century 21. Truckie Tuesday is up next, and it's all made possible thanks to GME, the Aussie experts in communication tech for over 65 years. 10-4, good buddies. Whether you're passing vital road info onto the convoy, calling out a hazard ahead, or telling old mate to get off Channel 40 because it ain't a bloody karaoke bar, GME's got the gear to keep your connection steady and crystal clear. Truckie Tuesday is straight ahead. Well, welcome to another Truckie Tuesday. It's Truckie Tuesday 110. And a very big thank you to GME for making this episode possible. GME, UHF, CB radios and other electrical devices all made here in Australia, where we support Australian manufacturing, Rod.
We certainly do, mate. They provide communication between truckies and others, people in four-wheel drive clubs, people in caravans, mate. Your average motorist who's travelling a lot of the time on the road, the UHF can save your life. It can save somebody else's.
Rod, whereabouts are you right now?
Mate, I'm in the bunk of the Kenworth in the Dubbo depot. I got in late last night. I'm going to start my 24-hour break and tomorrow afternoon hook up two trailers and go to Burke and perhaps the third one and go to Mount Isa.
And then Mount Isa back to Dubbo, or is there every chance you'll get a call and say, mate, can you go from Mount Isa to Adelaide because we're another job? Does that happen often?
Oh, look, it does happen. Last week I was going to Sydney and then to Mackay, and the other truck that was sort of mirroring my movement, he was operating a road train, and because of the place that he was going to load, he would have had to double split. And then he would have had to double split to deliver and go into Brisbane. So they changed my load for him. And instead of me going to Mackay, I ended up going to Brisbane and then out of Brisbane back to Moree and Moree home. And that gave me the chance to go and do the Mount Isa trip.
Wow. I was watching the Outback Truckers the other day at night. The algorithm's got me. You watch one and it keeps giving them to you. But there was one driver there who just was never ending. He thought one trip was over. He got a call up from his boss saying, can you get over here now? And I need you to bring this back here. And while he wasn't knocking back the money, he never knew when the trip was going to finish.
Yes. Got to be flexible, mate.
You've got to be flexible. All righty. The federal budget. Was there anything in there for truckies that raised your eyebrows, Rod?
Mate, I haven't studied it in detail. I've heard bits and pieces. Obviously, it's a major thing that they've made some big impacts into supposedly changes to housing. And yes, they've broken some promises. Look, how it works out in the end, I did hear your interview with your economist friend, and he didn't think that they'd really gone far enough with some things. And look, I'm not an economist. I live on the road. I think that some of them are a little bit removed from reality in some ways, and I'd like to see that they had more understanding of people's lives, but that's like saying that I should win the lotto too, Luke. So we're going to have to see how their measures work and whether they're effective or not, and of course that's not going to happen overnight.
I had an interesting chat with David Shoebridge during the week, Senator David Shoebridge from the Greens. And amongst the topics we touched on was the trucking industry, because we were talking about housing, obviously, to start with, and the government saying, oh, well, negative gearing will still continue, but on new houses. And I said, well, how are they going to build new houses when builders and sparkies and tradies can't find apprentices? We don't have the staff. We don't have the workforce to build all the houses. And then I said, by the way, the trucking industry are being bled of drivers. Drivers don't want to continue, or young people aren't interested in taking up the profession. And the Greens have an interesting theory in all of this. Let's have a listen. How do we incentivise apprentice truckies so that they can continue to deliver our groceries?
This budget gives like $40 billion in tax concessions to the mining industry for diesel fuel rebates, right? $40 billion. Imagine if a tiny bit of that, imagine if 10% of that was actually said, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to say to every new apprentice, we're going to give you, let's pick a figure, a $5,000 quarterly bonus if you stay in the job. Every 3 months, when your employer says you're learning your tools, you're learning your trade, the Commonwealth government's going to give you a $5,000 tax-free bonus, because we bloody well want apprentices in, and we want to encourage them to stay. And you know, when you complete your apprenticeship, we're going to give you a completion bonus and say, thanks very much, you can help build the country. Why aren't we seeing that in the budget? Instead, we get $40 billion gifted to the likes of Gina Reinhardt.
Right, Hannafy, that was David Shoebridge when I spoke to him on the Bonafide podcast during the week. What did you make of that?
By the sound of it, he's got some empathy and understanding. Talking about getting young people into the industry, if you're an apprentice, and we've always said, you know, apprentice wages have been low by comparison, and that's because you are not getting the value out of them as a worker. You are spending time training them. Now, the problem with our industry is that to be an apprentice truck driver and to learn, you have to go and spend time in the truck. Now, the truck can't earn more money. The apprentice can't earn additional money as he's doing tasks which you then charge to do. So, you know, normally if you've got someone working with them, you've got someone teaching them, the apprentice eventually learns those skills and his labour becomes chargeable. Now, in our industry, you've got to put 2 people in the truck. You can only charge for 1. They can't earn anything, and that's why it's been a problem to get people in, because the cost is then borne by the transport company. And we know, he said there, the margins are that thin. And of course, with the fuel price at the moment, there is no margin for many of those people. So they simply cannot afford to pay 2 people to go in the truck. And we've said, Luke, you know, normally it was 1/3 was fuel, 1/3 was wages. Those were the 2 biggest costs. And if you're going to pay 2 people to be in one truck, well, straight away, you're operating at a loss. And that's why it's been difficult to get people into trucks. And as he said there, we're paying the mining industry subsidies, and yet we haven't been able to come up with a method or a formula that allows us to take people in the truck, to train them properly. And we've discussed having a license. And yes, you've got to pay and go and learn, but having a license doesn't give you all the skills that you need to do the job. And if you just have a license, then you are not qualified a lot of the time to do the job properly and safely. So we need something there that allows us to train people and not have the company pay the whole cost of it.
All right. I'd love to hear from other truckies. What did you make of Greens Senator David Shoebridge's thoughts? Do you think governments are out of touch? And what happens when we run out of this generation of truck drivers and we haven't got a new generation to fill the seat? What happens then to our groceries and our fuel and everything else that we expect to be delivered? Give us a call and leave us your comments. Rod, speaking of incentives for truckies, and this isn't for new truckies, it's an incentive for experienced truckies. Love to know your thoughts on this one. Experienced heavy vehicle drivers could earn an extra $360 for a few hours' work as an Australian university looks to validate a new heavy vehicle hazard perception test. Researchers from the University of Queensland are currently conducting a study to validate the Oz Roads test. What's this about?
And that's a new one on me. I haven't actually heard that, so I'm going to have to follow up on that one, mate. And if you compare people, mate, you can be a really good car driver and you ask anybody, are you a good, of course, yeah, mate, I'm fantastic. You know, I do the right thing all the time. And yet we know people are different. And look, at times there are, I suppose, distinctions when you look at people's records. Now, when you first start out, you don't know technically how good you are because you haven't done it. But of course, you know, the average driver does their 20,000, we do 200,000, I'm coming up on 7 million. And you start out thinking, I'm going to try and do my best. And some people do it better than others. And if they can come up with something that either says, look, we don't think you're really good. Now, I've got to say, mate, many years ago, Finnemore has started these sort of perception tests. And you sit at a little desk.
Right.
And you had a pedal under each foot.
Yeah.
A button in each hand. And you had to guide something through this. It was like a little track thing. And you had to guide through. And if this happened, you had to push the right button. And if this happened, you had to push the left. And, mate, it was unheard of in the industry at the time that someone would look at that and say, you know, it's your reaction time, it's your perception and all that. And look, in the end of it, of course, it cost a lot of money to do. They did prove that it was validated if they looked back over people's records, that those that had done well in the test were less likely to have accidents. But I don't know anybody in the industry that does that now. There may be some, and we'd certainly like to hear if somebody's doing it. But, mate, I'll be interested to see how this goes into the future.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll have more to report on a further Truckie Tuesday down the road. Now, just getting back to the budget, apparently it has delivered some positive reforms for the Queensland freight sector, Rod. The Queensland Trucking Association's newly released budget analysis highlights modern gains in fuel security, productivity reform and selective infrastructure investment. At the same time, warning that Queensland's road freight industry continues to face growing pressure from congestion, rising operating costs, workforce shortages and inadequate freight corridor investment. So maybe some positive news coming for Queensland.
All longer-term things too, mate. None of that's going to happen tomorrow. We're still waiting on, you know, real money to look at the inland freight route as an alternative for the Bruce. Yes, money's allocated for the Bruce and they're working on it. Some of those things are being fast-tracked, but they're not going to flood-proof that tomorrow. We don't know when the next storm is going to come. Look, the corridor thing is something that we can use HPVs, high productivity vehicles, where suitable. So, mate, they're all future things. They're no immediate fixes, but they've also got to be followed through, Luke. You know, we talk about these things and they say it's going to happen. We certainly need fuel security and they're going to expand that. But, mate, we still don't know what's going to happen with that war and where that's going to end up. So, look, let's hope that the future does look better than it does at the moment.
I read something, it's not quite funny, but it kind of is. I read somewhere that the reason America goes to war is to give Americans a geography lesson.
Yeah, look, and your mate David there said that, we supported Donald's war. Well, I don't think that he rang and asked anyone in Australia permission. I don't think that if we'd have said, look, I don't think you should do it this week, mate, leave it go for a bit, I don't think that would have changed what happened. Do you, Luke?
No, I don't think so at all. And just finally, I want you to explain this for our listeners. Under the amended Heavy Vehicle National Law, the HVNL, which is expected to commence August 1 this year, apparently there's a range of fatigue-related reforms that are being introduced. Can you expand?
Mate, this is going to be a very touchy subject. Now, I had a phone call with Glenn Castanelli, the current president of the National Road Freighters, a couple of weeks ago, and there is so much going on. That HVNL review that you and I have discussed took 8 years, millions of dollars, and I don't believe that it's delivered much for drivers, but it's coming in on the 1st of August. Now, as part of that, currently, Luke, we have 3 fatigue levels. We have standard hours, we have basic fatigue, and we have advanced fatigue. Now, as of the 1st of August, and it's not going to all happen that as of the 31st of July it all falls apart and you've got to be up and running on the 1st of August. It will be transitional. So if you currently have BFM or AFM, that will roll over until your audit is due or you get reaccredited. But what they're doing, Luke, they're taking away the middle level. Now, I've had BFM. Prior to that, it was called TFMS, Transitional Fatigue Management Scheme. I've had those things for 25 years. They've been pretty similar, a couple of little changes, but I've operated under that scheme for 25 years. Now, they've completely removed that and said, I now have to go and be requalified. Now, because I'm going to operate under that scheme, my fleet controller also has to be qualified so that he knows the laws I'm operating under.
Right.
And they've turned around and changed all of that. As part of it, there's also a current review on electronic work diaries.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest problem I see, Luke, and again, we've been sort of told this EWD thing's underway, but I don't know of a single person in the road transport industry that said, oh, yes, I've been approached and consulted and I've been asked to explain how it affects me or what I think's good or what I think's bad. So I spoke to Glenn. He was waiting to hear back from someone to get a chance to have a say, and I waited a week and I thought that was long enough. So I rang one of the people involved. I spent over an hour and a half with him on the side of the road yesterday waiting to get a tyre fixed, and it was good time well spent. And he said, you're right, if you've not heard, and he knows that I'm involved, he knows that I'm persistent, he knows that I've got, a few years of knowledge that I might like to contribute. And he said, if you don't know and you haven't been involved and you don't really know where it's at, then how's the average driver even going to be aware of it or get a chance to contribute? So we've discussed a few things. There was, of course, rumour about that they were going to make EWDs so tight that no one's going to want one. So that's against what they do. And look, one of the things with this HVNL, Luke, they said they did it to increase people being accredited. So the more people that are accredited, they reach a higher standard to join and they have more backups. The way it's going, it's looking as though it's actually going to force more people out of accreditation because that level is so much higher than it has been. So at the moment, I'm waiting for feedback from that discussion. I'm hoping, and I have said, you must talk to people on the road. Now, you mentioned associations, Luke. They do a role. They're advocates. They're there for the industry as a whole. And there is one in each state. There is the ATA nationally. There's NatRoad. There's NRFA for drivers and owner-drivers. But again, many of the people in those bigger associations don't live on the road. They don't drive trucks. They might have the odd member raise an issue, But those people are not going to be affected by this personally in every day on the road. And I've said you must talk to drivers. And, it comes back to that point that outside of our industry, and even if we go back to Chris's example, people are trying to do the best to help him, but they don't live it, they don't understand it, and therefore, many of us feel that we don't get heard and we don't get the best outcomes. And that's not good enough.
It's not. A UHF isn't just an accessory. It's a lifeline. It's exactly why I'm stoked to have GME on the Bonafide podcast. They're the only Australian manufacturer of UHF CB radios and emergency beacons, operating right out of a purpose-built HQ in Sydney. You want to know how many locals they keep in steady work? 250. And the gear they build doesn't just keep the Bonafide family safe on the road. It's engineered specifically to handle the bull dust, the corrugations, and the longest hauls you can throw at it. If you love Truckie Tuesday, back the brand that backs us. Head over to gme.net.au. That's gme.net.au. Links are in the description. Let's get back to the chat. Rod, do you remember last year, I think it was, we got a call from a very distressed truck driver by the name of Chris, who had experienced a couple of things on the road that no one would ever wish their worst enemy to experience. Do you remember that call?
Mate, I do vaguely, yes. It was something very traumatic at the time, mate.
Yeah, it was. There were two incidents, and because of these incidents, one in particular, he's decided to give it away through mental health issues, and it's causing him serious health issues with his heart as well. He's contacted us during the week, and he's on the phone, and he just wants to give us a little bit of closure on all of this. So, Chris Jensen, G'day. Welcome to Truckie Tuesday on a fairly serious topic today. You were part of Truckie Tuesday last year, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So just for our listeners and for us, take us through what you've been through, because it's pretty bloody serious.
I started working for this mob in Yatala. Good job, best job in the world. I love it. So it was just involves moving batteries around Queensland. And one day I was only been in the job there a month. I've been driving trucks. This year's my 40th year. Well, I was driving back from Townsville, and I was at a place called Yukon, and I had a learner driver in front of me. I'm in a B-double. I was empty, and he had his dad with him and his brother was in the back seat, and they were in a brand new Land Cruiser boat on. We had a look, and the kid freaked out. I'm going, what's going on? I look, and there's a blue Camry northbound and the southbound lanes intentionally. Poor kid, there's a bit of a culvert off the side of the road. Not even a culvert, but he's gone down that and jackknifed it. And the car was heading towards me. He managed to miss me, and he kept going. Anyway, I jumped out, pull over, pull over, you mongrel, and all that sort of stuff, and come back, Anyway, I've gone down to check the dad and the boys and all that, and they're all right. Anyway, me and the dad walked back up the embankment sort of thing, and we were making sure they were all right and all that, and having a bit of a chat about what happened. And then this guy's come back in the Camry, done a U-turn, and then tried to run me and the dad over. Then after that, he apparently went up the road, and they got him in Serena anyway. Anyway, moving forward, I've got over that. I just wanted to get in the Marlborough anyway, so I got down there and shook it off and didn't think much about it, I just thought, dickheads out there and all that sort of stuff. And then August 28th, got back from Townsville the day before, was going doing a run, got preloaded it the day before, and doing a quick run up to Toowoomba. And, it was quarter to six in the morning on the Warrior at Brassel. Out of the corner of my eye, there's a bloke crouched in the bushes. I think it's called Pine Mountain Road, and I think Rod would know that road just before you get into black soil. Mm-hmm. This bloke stood up and just ran out. I go, what the shit? Tried to swerve and miss him. He didn't hit the front of the truck. He actually hit just behind the bunk, and the bunk door and all that on the passenger side. And the coppers reckon I almost missed him. But, he's hit there and then gone under the drive wheels. And, it's a mess. I had a few months off, went back to work. Wasn't happening. Went back to full duties in end of January. Yeah, I thought I was going all right. But, I just didn't feel it. And around February too, I'd had a kidney stone, and my heart skips a beat now It's only just been doing this since after the accident, and skips a beat, and then it releases an enzyme called troponin, which is a marker for heart attacks. And I haven't had a heart attack, it's just my heart skipped a beat. So that happened then. End of March, I was in the truck going up to Brendale doing a local run, and I'm on the gateway, and the same thing happened again, but it wasn't a kidney stone. Everything just went blurt, and I think after the accident I got a bit hyper vigilant, and the little triggers might have triggered it. I don't know. I haven't driven the truck since, and I don't want to get back in one. That's pretty much it.
How are you coping upstairs between the years? I can't imagine what you've been through. I don't want to. But how are you? It's ongoing, isn't it?
It just keeps going, mate. Now I've got to get a freaking pacemaker. I'm 58 years old. I'm pretty fit for a average age fella, and had everything ripped off me and through no fault of my own.
And you feel as though you just can't drive anymore, and you're going to give it away, or you have given it away.
Especially after that heart episode, there was something triggering it. Yeah, I've actually got to go and see the pacemaker guy on Tuesday. I've already seen one cardiologist. He's the plumber cardiologist. Now I've got to go and see the electrician cardiologist. And when you're going to see him, you're getting a pacemaker. So there's no ifs or buts about it. Yeah.
Rod, it's a terrible story. I don't know how typical it is when a driver has an incident that is just so horrific you feel like just walking away from the industry. And obviously Chris here has got health problems associated with that trauma. Rod, what would you like to say to Chris?
Mate, I've got to say, in one way it happens too often. Many years ago, it was something that was, virtually not talked of because of the fact that we didn't want people to copycat. And it sort of got brushed aside for quite a while. And then, look, I was at an ATA convention, and at the time I was working for Toll, and they did a study into recent accidents over a 10-year period, and they believed that 20% of their fatal accidents were suicide.
And Rod, you remember when we had the night shift on Triple M, train drivers were telling the same story.
Train drivers
they're going to live with it for the rest of their lives. Sorry, I didn't
That's what I'm living with, yeah.
Yeah. Look,
Exactly
but
right.
our train driver can't do anything about it.
No,
And it's a little bit different with us. You think, well, what if I'd, not taken off so fast? What if I'd stopped there for 2 seconds longer? What if? Now,
You
the
know
same
where
with
mine happened, Rod.
Yeah. Yep,
I
do.
Mate, I'm doing 100 already.
Yeah.
And it's just past that little camera, and then you got Pine Mountain Road, and he's just hiding in them bushes there.
Yeah, and that's it. Look, I know a number of drivers. I was approached at one stage. In America, they call it autoside. And Four Corners had done a story on it over there, and they wanted to talk to drivers here, and I know of at least 4 that it's happened to.
Yeah.
And again, everybody deals with it differently. I had one bloke where a young lady tried to commit suicide, and she actually survived and wrote him an apology letter. And look, he went back on the road, but he said he was wary of everybody.
Yeah.
And as I say, the conditions are different depending on where it's happened, what it happened at the time, and how it affects you. So, mate, I understand how you feel. Have you been able to get the right help? Now, obviously, you're not going back on the road.
I've had all the help: cardiologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, everything. I've had everything, and when I was talking to a psychiatrist after the heart episode on the gateway, that he said, "Mate, do you want to call it?" And I thought about it, and I went, "Yeah, I think we should."
Yep.
I think it's just like I said to work cover and all that too. I said, "Mate, due to this trauma, I'm having this problem." I said, "End of the day, I don't want to be that guy." And he said, "What guy?" And I said, "That guy who's had a medical episode behind the wheel, who's killed 2 people." I don't want to be that. I've been driving 40 years. My licence is pretty good. My New South Wales one was a bit crappy, but that's another story.
So, Chris, do you think they recognised what it's like for a truck driver? Have you found people that have actually recognised that, or do you think because, you're not dealing with people who live in trucks, they don't understand as much?
Yeah, that's what I'm finding. I find a lot of naivety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
there's
look,
a lot of it.
It's not a fault of theirs. It's simply the fact that they don't recognise what it's like to live in a truck 6 days a week. And like you say, you know, you caught him out of the corner of your eye your first time. You tried to swerve. It still happened.
Still
then
happened.
everything that catches your eye, you know, you'd be thinking that straight away.
Mate, you do that subconsciously.
Yes.
It just bang, and you're just going, wow, okay, that could have been bad. You know?
Yeah. So, look, mate, it's something where, as I say, for many years it wasn't talked about, and then
Like
the study was done.
Like I've driven for Toll, I've driven for Shell, you know, I've done fuel, 40 years, mate, I've done a fair bit, you know.
Yes.
But,
and,
you know, and that's another thing too, a lot of the camaraderie's gone nowadays too. It's gone.
It is, mate, but it's up to us. Now, either, you know, in your situation, you've got good reason not to go back on the road. And I know blokes say the camaraderie is gone and the mateship's disappeared, but you either make an effort to bring it back and you do your part to do the right thing, or you whinge and moan and bitch and you say that it's all rooted and therefore I shouldn't have to do it either. And it's only going to get worse, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, there's no one else that's going to help us. You've just said there are people who don't understand what it's like. And
a lot of the new blokes think, oh, yeah, big banger and all that sort of stuff. But it's not all about the big banger. You know, it's about everything that's around you as well.
It is. And it's also recognising your responsibility. So,
100%.
Yes, in days gone by, people did it because they loved it. Now people do it because it's just a job. And if you're doing it as just a job, your mental attitude is completely different. And you don't think about the circumstances, or you don't think about, you know, how other people see that when you run them, you know, you sit behind them too close, or you do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've never had a good public reputation. They don't understand. And, you know, a truck is big, and sometimes some bloke pushes them and they think, oh, you know, might is right, and that truckie pushed me. But they don't understand he might have been trying to get a run up to overtake safely, whatever it might be, because they don't drive trucks.
But you know what? The naivety stems into people's behaviours as well.
Mm-hmm.
They think, and me being hyper vigilant like I am now, you know, I don't even drive. I've got a Chevy Silverado here. I don't even drive it. I don't go out. I just stay home. What I was trying to say was that people's driving behaviours mimic what they're thinking. They think, truck can stop, or, you know, all this sort of stuff. But truck can't stop that quick.
No.
You know? No. You know, like they'll just pull a lane change. And you've seen on the M1, the Warrego and all that, and Ipswich motorway. It's I don't know, there's something about, like in Sydney, I feel safer driving in Sydney than I do in Queensland.
Yeah.
It's just one of them things. Same as Victoria too. I don't like driving in Victoria either.
And I understand, mate. So, look, I'm terribly sorry that that's where you're left with. I hope that they do recognise, you know, how it's affected you, and mate, that you get a fair go out of it in the end. And all we can say to blokes that are out there is, like you say, you nearly have to have eyes in the back of your head to see everything that's going on around you. And you've only really got to blink to look at the radio or to look down the right-hand side when something happens on the left, and those things can all go pear-shaped. So, you know, we need blokes to recognise that 1 second can make a difference.
It's not even that, really. It's, don't just sit in the cab and in the cab and think that it's cool. All right? Just go, it's cool, you know. Sit in that cab, and like you said about your job, you got to love your job, all right? There's no point just turning up and just doing it. You know, if you like that, you should get out of it anyway. When you turn up switched on, and it's not just you and the truck, it's you and everyone else around you and that truck.
Yes.
You know, so be aware and mindful, because the one thing I did learn, accidents are avoidable.
Well, as you say, though, you know, when a bloke runs out from the side of the road, you
can't avoid that. But most accidents are avoidable.
Most, there you go, mate. So you've got to qualify these things. Because...
you do. So, it's a statement. I felt a bit like Pauline then for
Yeah, look, mate, sorry to hear that. I hope that the future holds a better life for you. And look, as you say, there was nothing you could have done in that situation.
Like one of the psych I'm seeing, he deals with military blokes and all that sort of stuff. And because I'm ex-army as well, I put it to him like this. I said, it's like going out in the field. You don't know who you're shooting at, but you shot someone. And that's how it sort of feels. You didn't go out there intentionally wanting to shoot anyone. You basically ordered to. But this, I was just doing my job. I didn't get asked to participate in this silly exercise.
And those people who do that are selfish. And look, we don't understand this situation, and they're not thinking straight at the time. No. So, but
and a lot of us have been down that path, and this bloke actually was going for a marriage breakup. He had a young son, and all that sort of stuff. So, as well.
That's right. Look at the impact he's had, not just him and his family, but now Chris and his life and his family. Listen, Chris, stay in touch, mate. We hope you get the help you need. We hope your health improves. And
I'm doing all right. It's just the heart, mate, That's all I can say. I've got to try and lighten up a bit, and that's what I do now,
All right, mate. Well, thanks for telling us about it. And it's a message, isn't it, Rod? Chris, I'll let you go, buddy. You have an appointment to get to. Thank you for ringing back, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Rod.
All the best for the future, mate.
Rod, that's an incredibly sad story. And you're right. It is the ultimate act of selfishness to do that to somebody else. But you see, you're not, you said it, you're not in your right state of mind. You're obviously dealing with a mental illness when you're that close to wanting to end your life and you don't care about the impact it has on others. All I can say is please contact Lifeline 13 11 14 if you are having these thoughts, and seek help before you ruin your life and other lives around you. 13 11 14 Lifeline. It's there 24/7, and it's a service that is free.
And Luke, with that, people that get into that situation think that nobody understands and nobody can help and nobody cares. And people like Lifeline, they do care. They do want to help. They don't know your personal situation. They can't fix it in a second. But the alternative is unthinkable. And if you're looking for someone, you're in that spot, those people can help you and they will help you.
All right, look, something to think about. A fascinating Truckie Tuesday today. And remember, our thoughts go out to Chris and anyone else that's experienced trauma on the road. And listen, if you aren't feeling right between the ears, if you're feeling vulnerable, if you're feeling down, please, for God's sake, your family's sake, and everyone else's, contact Lifeline, at least 13 11 14. It is free and it's available 24/7. Well, good on you, Rod. You have a safe trip. Remember, thank you to GME, family-owned, Australian-based manufacturer of UHF CB radios, emergency beacons, something for everyone, not just truckies, for cars, for caravans, for boats, and four-wheel drives, even agriculture. GME, Australian-owned, manufactured, the best UHF radios. And by the way, you can get GME at Autobarn, I noticed.
But yes, you certainly can. Now, I've got two quick things for you, Luke.
Yes.
After we spoke at Sejuna last week, I got up at midnight, and that 14-day rule is another thing I want to see fixed and made better. But, mate, the fog was that thick. It virtually went all the way from Sejuna to Port Augusta. I could not see two guideposts in front of me. And I know that you'll be shocked to hear that somebody called me up from behind and said, "Oh, mate, when you get a chance, can you call me round?" He did have a bit of an accent. And I said, "Mate, can you see the road?" I said, "Can you see better than I can? Because I can't see the bloody thing at all." So I said, "You're just going to have to sit there and wait for a while, mate." And yet, there was another driver behind me at one stage, and I said, "I'm sorry if I'm holding you up, mate." He said, No. He said, no. Mate, he said, "I've got no problem." He said, "I'll sit back here. Look, if something happens and the fog lifts, let's worry about it then." But he said, "I'm happy to sit back and just follow you." Now, the fog was bloody terrible, and it tears the eyes out of your head, Luke. It went for 3 or 4 hours. So, in fog, for goodness sake, slow down, take care, be reasonable. And, mate, I did follow up. I've spoken with both South Australia Transport. I'd love to hear from any drivers that agree that we need a westbound rest area before the village of Nullarbor. I left Port Augusta, We're allowed to do up to 6 hours. I was coming up on my 6th hour. There are 2 eastbound rest areas, so they're not signed for westbounders. They say no entry. The next one is a car-only one, and I ended up pulling up on the edge of the road at the end of an emergency airstrip. It wasn't even signed, really, but that was the best spot because I couldn't legally make it to Nullarbor Village. So I rang Transport South Australia. I've suggested a need for a rest area there. If anybody would like to back me up and support that, I'd appreciate it. I spoke to them about some more green reflectors, and I've also followed up with WA Transport after spending half an hour on the phone with them. They put me through to Main Roads, and again, I'm waiting for them to call me back. So I have followed up, and mate, to those driving in fog, for goodness sake, be patient and wait, will you?
I could never sleep on an emergency airstrip. I'd be worried sick that a single or twin-engine Cessna was going to land on me at any moment. And remember, don't be a wanker, be a thanker. National Thank You Wave Day was May 8, and we're keeping the momentum going. And anyone called you up, Rod?
Mate, no one's called me specifically about that. I've had a few people say, listen on the podcast. I was in our Sydney depot and a mate said, oh, you're a legend, mate. Love that podcast. Have a good day. So that was quite nice.
Yeah.
And yes, a couple of others have made, just called up and said g'day, and I think they're fans of the podcast, mate. Another bloke said that he thought it was going really well. And he'd seen bits and pieces of it everywhere, so you're doing a good job getting it out there as well, mate.
Good on you. Don't be a wanker, be a thanker. If you want a sticker, spot the Rod, call him up and let us know who you are, and Kelsey will make sure you get a sticker and possibly other merch, because our merch store is open. Rod Hannafy, safe driving, brother. Talk to you soon.
Safe travelling to all, Luke.
A big, massive cheer for the folk at GME. Thank you for keeping the Aussie transport industry talking. It's engineered specifically to handle the bull dust, the corrugations, and the longest hauls you can throw at it. Head over to gme.net.au. That's gme.net.au. Links are in the description, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Andrew at Pestrol. Love your products. Come with a money-back guarantee. Listeners, thank you for... Do you tune in? So you used to tune in on the radio because there was a dial and you moved it and you would, and then be on your.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Please spread the word. Please subscribe. Please get into the merch store. Leave us your thoughts. Leave us your opinions. Any suggestions, because we love you all.
And Luke, what's your thought of the day? I'm so excited.
I've got a question for you. Where do bad rainbows go?
To the end of the bucket of gold.
No, they go to Prism. But it's a light sentence, and it gives them time to reflect.
That was actually a good one. That was good. 10 out of 10.
Go away. Well, that's us for another one. But before you go, don't spend another night laying awake listening to things moving in the ceiling and the walls. If you want that peace of mind, well, get on the front foot and head to pestrol.com.au. Like I said, I've known Andrew for over 20 years, way over 20 years, as a matter of fact. He's a good mate. He's a good man, and his gear actually works. Otherwise, I wouldn't endorse it. If it's crawling, flying, or chewing, or messing up your bathroom, talking to you,
hey,
Pestrol has the answer. Is there a product called Kelsby Gone? Grab what you need. Remember, this is important. Use the code BONA, B-O-N-A, to get your free delivery. And it helps us keep the lights on here at the show. Stay safe.